Alright everyone, welcome to our stream today. So, we're here, gonna start a different type of stream. I just felt like doing this randomly. Yeah, also spoilers. I updated the title of the stream, so spoilers. Definitely. If you haven't played or seen someone play Chapter 5, you have been warned. Please click off and watch this later. I'm not even, like, I'm only mainly doing this as a stream, as just a way to record a VOD. Like, I'm doing this more for the VOD than for the stream itself. So, there'll be, like, I'll be interacting with chat if people pop in, but I'm expecting this to be a really low viewer count stream anyways, so that's what we're going with. Anyways, I figured, we'll get started and we'll just, like, start listening down the list of the OST as I'm talking, just to have it in the background. I'm gonna skip some annoying songs in there, but, you gotta start with the logo, of course. I'm not reviewing the music specifically. I just have the, music in the background, but I have a whole outline. I haven't scripted anything other than what this outline is. And I'm just gonna be going based off of that. Let's see, this is a little quiet. So, thoughts. I'm just gonna go down the list here. Characters. Let's start with characters. Flowery, definitely a huge standout. You know, everyone loves the guy's voice clips, obviously. Those are their vocal stems for days. Is this too loud? But, I love his dynamic with Rousey, and how much he pisses Rousey off. That's funny. What else? The fake stats thing was kind of interesting. I'm also gonna do, like, there's a theorizing second half. The first half is talking about the chapter itself and my thoughts on it. Second half is, like, theorizing. So that's how we're gonna do this. But we're gonna kind of go in a shotgun style here. But yeah, so Flowery, definitely stand out. I need to rank the flowers now that I think about it, but, did I touch on all of the characters? I might get to. Okay, let's just go down the list here. But, Pink. Hatsune Miku. We got Miku. Actually crazy. I've seen people on Twitter making, like, memes about, Marigold the giant rat being an actual character, and not just, like, an insult for on Orange's sister. But, is this loud? I don't know. You think Aqua's the best flower? If I had to rank the flowers, I go from bottom to top. I like bombastic and loud characters most of the time. Not always, but I tend to like a lot of loud or bombastic characters more than quiet and reserved ones. So, with that being said, if I had to rank the flowers, I'd say from bottom to top would be blue, then green, then, orange, although orange is kind of loud, then Seth, then yellow, then Aqua. Am I missing anyone? Favorite characters are Mario and Luigi Lamau. And I mean, I'm treating them separate from Flowery, because obviously Flowery's at the top. But, you're working on a one arrangement? Well, yeah, good to have in the background, I guess. Oh god, Ford Sanctuary. We'll have a section talking about the music itself. But, let's see. But no, Pink was pretty interesting. I'd probably put Pink around the middle. Like, I knew Pink, like, took everyone by surprise, because they're like, Miku? Really? We're going with Miku? But, like, I mean... And everyone wanted, like, some really, ghastly, or, like, secret boss that had all this, like, plot significance. But, I mean, it makes sense with Pink, having, like, Pink and the ghost possession, and, like, the dynamic between that, and comparing and paralleling it to Chris and the Soul. So it makes sense in that way. It's 8-bit Drummer's worst nightmare. I think Toby actually made Ford Sanctuary specifically to piss off 8-bit Drummer. Actually targeted. Completely targeted. It's a Lightner and a Darkner at the same time. Well, what I thought it was wasn't it the Lightner ghost possessing the figurine that Asgore had? And the figure became a Darkner in the Dark World. So now, the Lightner possessing the figure is sharing the body with the Darkner I thought that's how it was working. But anyways, let's keep going. I'm gonna be here forever. Noelle, I'm gonna save a lot of what I want to say about Noelle for the Weird Route section, but because I think the Weird Route Noelle was completely standout amazing. But oh look, Festival comes on right there. Noelle kind of, like, you could see her kind of being more independent and Susie's influence rubbing off on her in the main route. Like, you know, she stands up to her mother on the phone, but then gets the terrible news there. Other than that, like, it ties into the festival section. I'll mention it a bit later, but I think the festival section itself was a little long. I mean, there were some funny parts in there, and I enjoyed some parts of the festival section. But, like, when it got to the point where it was, like, like, Susie and Noelle at the lake, it was just dragging on and on. Like, come on, get me to the Dark World already. I don't know. And if it means anything, like, maybe some of y'all love that part, I don't really care about shipping. Like, I think people who care way too much about shipping are kind of weird in my book. Like, if you want to do shipping and stuff, that's fine by me, but, like, I don't like when games spend way too much fan servicey time on it. I'd rather get into, like, the meat of the big overarching story of, like, the Dark Worlds and everything. Anyways, Noelle does get invited to Castle Town. Yeah, so I wonder, like, there's the whole thing. I'm jumping ahead of myself so much, but, like, I'll probably touch on it later, but everyone's interested to see if Noelle's gonna crash out once she realizes that people were lying to her saying that Chapter 2 was a dream and everything. And especially, like, if it's an aborted Weird Route, and with Snowgrave and stuff, where then after you abort the Weird Route and then Noelle gets brought into all this BS, like, that like, she's gonna probably actually crash out. I don't know. We'll put a pin in that. Come back later. Ralsei. Let's talk about Ralsei this chapter. Ralsei was an absolute, like, the way that he gets trolled, it's really funny. Like, yeah, I feel bad for Ralsei in some ways, and you see Ralsei start to stand up for himself a bit more, but it is really funny watching everyone rage bait the shit out of Ralsei. Oh my god. But yeah, if y'all have other theories, go ahead and say your theories in the chat. We are skipping the Fessions. I do not like the Fession tracks. I mean, I don't think we're supposed to, but we are skipping the confession tracks. Let's see, keep going. Asgore. Oh, hello, Flowery. But, Asgore. Asgore, I think, had some aura loss, but a lot of aura gain. Like, it kind of balances out. I think Toby likes torturing Asgore's, like aura for fun. I seriously think Asgore deserves a full redemption arc if he survives to the end of the story. Like, at least has some good ending for him, especially with the ending of Chapter 5 being essentially him realizing that the way he's been acting around Toriel is not the best and he needs to kind of move on. So, like, with him learning a lesson and then now he just gets kidnapped, it's just like... But the moment he had with, like, Chris, don't come back, and he closes the door and you can see half of the armor on him in the Dark World, like, that, he did have some aura moments. And then, like, scaring the shit out of Chris with being like, when I parade their body around town, not knowing Chris is, like, right behind him. It's actually insane thinking about it. Let's read this. In Pacifist Route, after Noelle sees the Dark World, I think she'll make the Chapter 6 Dark World in the hospital to heal her father. That is a good possibility. I think a lot of the community is talking about something like that. I've also again, I keep jumping ahead, but I want to talk about ideas as they come up too. I've also seen a theory where people are saying that, like, Noelle tries to, like, either do the hospital Dark World or tries to bring Rudy into Castletown and then tries to, like, do some shit in Castletown and ends up accidentally, like, causing a giant blizzard and, like, almost destroying all of Castletown. So it's, like, it's interesting seeing all of these different interpretations here. As ashore. Me hearties, it be me, Pirate Dexter, we need to go ashore to apologize. Well, yeah, I think, obviously, Asgore should, you know, apologize to Toriel, but you know what? I just said it would be... I don't care too much for shipping, but you know what could be an interesting ending for Asgore? Once he, you know, moves on from Toriel, what if him and Alphys get together? Because wasn't Alphys the one who gave him the Mew Mew figurine that became pink? Isn't there, like, an implied crush or something? Like, something like that happening could be interesting. I don't know. But, I still think he deserves at least some happy ending. If he lives. He might not live, but, oh, hello, Liddy. Welcome. we're just going down the list here. And for those of you who joined late, this is mainly me doing this to have a VOD of this later, just talking about my raw thoughts. I have, like, this barely outlined structure of things I'm talking about, and I'm just going down the list. Still on topic of Asgore, I still can't believe the they post king bullshit Toby's pulling, like, oh, Chris, that horrible, terrible day, Chris, you know the one. Oh, that horrible, horrible day. No good, very bad day. Like, come on, give us a crumb. Like, I get it, Chris already knows what happened, and Asgore knows knows what happened, but, like, give us something to chew on. It just feels like Toby's rage baiting us at this point a little bit. And I think a lot of people have been theorizing that Chapter 6 is going to specifically talk about that day and what show us... Like, some people are even thinking it's going to be a flashback to what happened on that day and the disappearance. So, I don't know if that's actually going to happen, but with Chapter 6 being a bit shorter and Toby saying in the newsletter that he was going to, like, solve one specific thing and we all had to be ready for it in Chapter 6. Siva's doing a Baldy Fest. I did see the profile picture change, and I saw a community post about Baldy from Siva Gunner, so I think I saw a little bit of that. Oh look, it's your dad's my best friend. The stupid stuff. And didn't Toby say something in the newsletter about he talked about that one show? He basically used like the first 10 seconds of that one sitcom or whatever as an inspiration for this. If it's a flashback chapter, the pacing of Chapter 7 is gonna be crazy. Oh, now I'm thinking that meme where it's the meme of Chapter 6 pacing being slow and then Chapter 7 pacing, and it's like the collage of memes with like the jazz cover of Charlie's Inferno with all like the random bullshit happening in the background. I don't know if any of y'all know what I'm talking about. Actually, I can pull that up. Here, give me a sec. Deltarune, excuse me, sir, meme. I don't know if it'll have the specific one, but, no, I'm looking for a very specific one. But it's like, someone rotoscoped a bunch of Deltarune over this, like, to have it be all Deltarune stuff. So, and then it's like, this is Chapter 7 pacing. You'll think they'll both take place in the bunker? I don't know, like, you'd think... Again, I'm gonna talk more about this in the theorizing section, but people are debating if it's gonna be like the hospital, the Holiday House Dark World, or something else. Like, those are the top two contenders for the biggest the Dark World next chapter, if there's even gonna be one. So we don't even know. Like, that's crazy. Deltarune Chapter 7 pacing meme. I'm a Neil C. It was on the tip of my tongue earlier. I just forgot it, like, in the here and now. Full House. Okay, yeah. To be fair, we didn't watch much of that even when I was a kid, so... but yes, I think it was Full House. I don't know. But, oh, yeah, here it was. No, the framing's off, damn it. You can see half the screen, but you get the point. Even though it's cropped to shit. But, yeah, let's go back here. So, anyway, to get back on track, we went on a tangent there. Still talking about Asgore with the divorce. We kind of touched on that already. I said the thing about Alphys and, like, Asgore learning to grow and, like, not bother Toriel as much. No opportunities. I mean, like, what I'm thinking when I wrote these notes is, like, it's kind of sad Asgore doesn't really get a chance to show off his aura as much. Like, he didn't get to, like, try to even fight against the Knight. He just gets, like, kidnapped immediately by the Knight. And then you have him in his goofy Dark World outfit in the first half of the chapter. So, I don't know. It's like, he's kind of being robbed of a lot of people kind of want him to have more aura, but I don't know. I've said enough on that. But he did have that character growth. We already talked about that. Chris depression versus Soul. I'm gonna save that for talking more about... Oh wait, no, Chris, this is just a whole separate character. Okay, so Chris. Let's move on and talk about Chris. Chris kills Noel in Chapter 7 side B to B with... Oh my god. Y'all shippers are insane. But, so, with Chris, like, it's kind of interesting where you have all of the romantic undertones in the game. Obviously, the more obvious of them being, you know, Susie and Noelle. And then you have moments in Chapter 5 that are optional where it shows, like, you know, Chris may or may not have some one-sided feelings for Susie. And then you see Susie kind of being clinging on to Chris and, like, wanting Chris to constantly do stuff with her but not, like, go all the way, I guess? Because, like, you know, cruisy shippers, I guess, have been dying or whatever. But, and then you see, like, all the memes about Susie sabotaging Chris with anything romantic. Like, you had the scene in the onsen with Chris and Ralsei, and, you know, Susie interrupts that, and you have the famous meme about, you know, Susie saying, you know, Chris flirts with everyone, right? And then all the memes of Chris immediately starting to swoon everyone. But, in all seriousness, memes aside, it is kind of weird how Chris basically has not a lot of happiness, basically. Like, you saw Chris taking the packet of flowers, seeds, at the end of Chapter 5, and everyone's thinking one of two things. The obvious thing being, he's gonna grow an army of floweries to stop the roaring! No, but obviously people are thinking that since the seeds have a warning label, Chris might not want to live long in this story, and might want to go out in Chris's own way, I guess. So, it's just like, you know, you kind of feel really bad for Chris, especially with the soul puppeting Chris around, and Chris just doesn't really have much autonomy, and we already knew that, but, like, not even other chances to really form a lot of genuine relationships, because you, like, once the soul's eventually free from Chris, do you think Chris is gonna still be able to keep the friends Chris has made, or even survive? Like, we don't even know if Chris is gonna lose their hands, so, I don't know. You think the main villain of Chapter 6 will be Fred due to every secret boss mention? The only thing that kind of discourages that, in my opinion, is, when you think about it, that that update that happened with the pack of friendlings and Pink talking about the protein, like, there's a bunch of friendlings, so are they, what, gonna form into one giant friend amalgam or something? Or are you gonna fight Eram? Like, people are thinking Eram or John Mantle or whatever his name is the owner of the pack of cats, or maybe it's Gaster, because everything's Gaster. But, like, I don't know if we're gonna get, like, a lot of people are saying Fred might be a common mob enemy in Chapter 6, or 7, or whatnot, like, just because there's a lot of them, but I don't know, like, people haven't really made up their minds consistently about that yet, and I don't know what side I'm falling on yet. I couldn't even guess the secret boss for Chapter 6. Like, some people are saying it'll, like, take place past the late, well, no, that's the Chapter 7 side B. Forget what I just said. Let's keep going down the list here. We did talk about the romance and third wheeling, because, yeah, Chris is putting all this work in being, a third wheel for, you know, Susie and whatnot, and then Chris just is, you know, not getting a ton in return. Like, sure, Chris has friends, but it's just, like, there's that undertone of, like, sadness with it, I guess. And, like, yeah, is Susie possessive? That's what I mentioned earlier, with, like, Susie kinda being possessive over Chris and not wanting, like, in shutting down Bergley. That's another thing I forgot to mention. Like, Susie shuts down Bergley so Chris can continue to be her third wheel. You know, it's just kind of, it seems a little weird. You know, you're the first person Chris flirted with, right? Around aboard in SFX. It is funny, because Susie will still say Chris flirts with everyone, even if you never took any flirt actions in the game. At least, I think that's what someone said. Multiple people said, so I think that's what happened, so, I don't know. Ending it versus Flowery Army. We did talk about that, you know, the Flowery Army versus Chris using the seeds and ingesting the seeds. Moving on for the characters. Let's talk about the humor. Humor in this chapter, top tier. References galore, all this cool stuff. Like, I'm so glad we got some small conclusion to Woody Theory, right? Because I was a Woody Theory truther from, not day one, but, like, since before chapters 3 and 4, I was a Woody Theory truther. And the fact that we got a cowboy at all in chapter 5 was so happy. And the fact that he's just trying to find a good way to off myself. This is a suicidal Woody cowboy. Really? That's where we went with it? And then, like, the sprites of Ralsei and Susie, like, being shocked looking at each other with, like, the punishment room. It's just crazy thinking about. Have you seen the Cursed Yellow song? Yes, I have. Like, shut up, Buzz, I'll kill me. You know, the parody or whatever. Yes, I have seen that one. He is based off Woody. Yes, he did say that in the newsletter, but I think Toby was kind of trolling when he said that was my only inspiration for something specific, or foreshadowing, was the curtains in Chapter 3, and we're like, sure, buddy, yeah, you didn't know about Friend Inside Me at all, yeah, sure, buddy. Okay. Let's see, what else with the humor? I love the references, like, let's keep going down here. There was the references to horse race tests, that Twitter account with the horses, like the weird blob horses bouncing around, the Castletown reference to that, and right next to it was a Uma Musume reference in Castletown as well. There was the quicksand Sakia thing, like the won't somebody please help me with the Shino Beetles, or however they're called, sinking into the quicksand and whatnot. You know, referencing all these Toby Fox inside jokes. Let's talk about the music now. I want to move on to the music. I know I spent a little bit on the humor. Like, more on humor, the voice clips were amazing, you know, with Flowery. The insinuation that they murked Onion Sand, but we'll talk about that more later. What else? Music. So, we got the heavy hitters, the huge music that everyone loves, the two big ones. Cutie Mew Mew Magic and Flower Man. Those are obviously the two that everyone is, you know, gushing over, rightfully so. And those were the two, I think, Camellia, or however you say it, collabed with Toby for. Let's see. Weird Root Festival is called Happy Town, from my knowledge, Undertale's test song. It is. You are correct with that. It is called Happy Town, and that makes me want to think about Meat Factory. Later, I'm going to talk about Meat Factory, but let me get to it. We got to go speed through all that stuff first. The theorizing is in the second half of the stream. This is the first half, talking about the chapter itself. I like that there's Toho influence, especially in Pedal Dance. Where's Pedal Dance? Here it is. You can really hear, like, Toho influence, because, you know, obviously Toby Fox has collabed with Zune, and, you know, his favorite Toho character's Ran, so it is fairly obvious. Where's the part with the Zune pits? I think it's here? There it is. Like, the very similar sounding to the Zune pits. Obviously, you know, Guy loves Toho, and I love Toho, so good to have those allusions to it. There's the whole shitposty nature of inappropriate recycling, you know, with the freedom motif in it, because of course there is. Camellia helped with Pink's battle theme. Is that not Cutie Mew Mew Magic? I thought I mentioned that. But then, you also have the Sneakers O'Toole, you know, where's my favorite example? It would be, Stop Criminal. Where's Stop Criminal? Here's Stop Criminal. That's one of my favorite instances of that motif. Because, you know, I love yellow. But yeah, obviously, funny Sneakers O'Toole meme. And, of course, you have the complete shitpost that is Ford Sanctuary. If I clicked on the right one. Yes. To fuck over with the 8-bit drummer, obviously. You gotta have the shitpost. And someone's already made, like, a fan-made Find Sanctuary, like a 5NB Sanctuary. Yellow's entrance was pure aura. Yeah, and then immediately having him be, like, a klutz, but, like, having him enter with, like, the shadow under his eyes, under the brim, it's like, you're setting him up for all the aura. I mean, to be fair, he was introduced in that diner earlier, where he's kind of shown to be a bit goofy, but you do get a little bit of aura with it. I did say Ford. I thought I did say Ford. Maybe I said fourth by accident, but yes, Ford Sanctuary. Just like the Ford that Asgore ran over Tess with. Oh, Lord. Okay, moving on from the music, because we gotta keep moving on. I gotta pace this better. Speaking of pacing, let's talk about the pacing for this chapter. So, pacing. Started the chapter's very nice. You get the wake-up sequence with giving the toast tutorial, and that's all fine. Then you get the bit of going with Susie to Castletown, and, sorry, not with Susie. You meet Susie in Castletown and help Susie get ready, and then you two go with Noelle, and then the whole festival part happens. So there's enough stuff in the festival with dialogue to, you know, keep it relatively interesting. The main thing is, you know, the insinuation that normal NPC murked Onion Sand and cooked the guy up like the hometown butcher he is. But, aside from that, and, like, the dunk tank, there's a whole theory section with the dunk tank. I'm gonna get back to that. Someone made a 6-hour-long theory specifically about Splatoon, but we'll get to that later. aside from that, the festival itself kind of dragged on a little bit in when I was looking through, and especially the lake scene afterwards. Like I said earlier, I don't care too much for the sappy romance stuff, so I was mostly like checking my watch the whole time during the lake scene. Like, yeah, you two have your moment. Rudy's gonna die. Can we get to that? What's gonna happen to Rudy, guys? He fell. Also, we don't know if fell down means Undertale fell down or means literally fell down, so we don't know that either. Oh, look, Chris is making the fountain again. So then finally we get to the Dark World, right? And then the pacing in the Dark World. I think the first half of the Dark World before you get to the castle also drags a little bit. Like, it is more linear, I guess. I mean, it kind of reminds me of... It's supposed to remind you of Chapter 1, and that was obviously a bit linear as well. But, let's see. I left off at Ride the Board. Oh yeah, let me go back to that. Where's Ride the Board? There it is. Let's go to Quiet Glade next. I don't like it. I just don't like a lot of shipping. In general. Like, I've said this before, I'll say it again. I think people who care way too much about shipping can kind of come off as weird to me, and I'd rather just go into the story for, like, the actual non-romance parts of it. That's not the reason I'm into Deltarune, isn't because of the romance stuff. It's because of all, like, the theory crafting, and then the storytelling, and the jokes, and the humor, and the music. Those are the parts I care more about, honestly. Everything else is just like, yeah, let's get this over with. Back to the pacing. So yeah, pre-Castle Dark World, look, Quiet Glade. I mean, yes, it's supposed to have parts that are quiet and more subtle, and you have the introduction of Flowery and the whole Rouse very much not liking Flowery, and then Flowery told me with, like, the Susie bullshit, and you have enough stuff to kind of chain you along, but it could have been maybe a little quicker. Let's see. Okay, and that was most of it with the pacing, because once you get to the castle, I think the pacing's pretty good. Like, the pacing in the castle, you loop back to the foyer a lot, and you get good checkpoints to visit the cafe, and you have other character interactions there, and that's always interesting. Let's see. We all know that the flowery seeds are yellow seeds and he gets possessed by friend, leading to the friend inside me being real. Now that's a theory I like. That's how we're gonna get a secret boss there. The real friend inside me all along. Oh, Lord. Let's see. Okay, moving on. Gameplay itself. The platformer section was neat, and watching people react to that, like react to the activating the platformer section, where at first they're like, no, it's a fake white pen, don't touch it. No, it's just activating this new mechanic. And, Chapter 4, you had the ladder and the climbing and stuff. And now Chapter 5, we have the platforming sections, which is interesting, and you have the axe to spice it up. Which makes people think, oh god, what are they gonna do gameplay-wise for, like, Chapter 6 and stuff? And someone's like, are we gonna get, like, a first-person horror RPG or something in Chapter 6? Are we gonna get, like, 3D, third-person over-the-shoulder? Like, what's gonna happen here? What else? Backtracking with the castle. I do like the way the castle's designed, like I said before. Going back to the foyer and having easy access to the cafe, for the cutscenes and stuff. The soul mechanics were pretty neat. I know people were, saying they wanted an orange soul for a while, which was interesting. Yeah, orange, and just kidding. That sort of stuff. I don't think we're gonna fight normal NPC. I wonder how, like, the Gaster followers are gonna go into it, because you think they're just gonna stay in the shadows the whole time? No, they're actually the Gaster's pirate crew, and we're gonna have to, like, have our own ship and shoot cannons at Gaster's ship and stuff. That'll be fun. What else? There was... Oh, the Ace Attorney section. I misspelled attorney. But, the Ace Attorney section was very unique. I think that was one of my favorite gameplay gimmicks, is that section. And you had the outright references to Ace Attorney characters with the outfits and stuff. And you actually have to find and think about the evidence for a little bit. Which is, I think, very refreshing. And I like that there are all these new fresh takes on the battles, so... And having the whole interplay between blue and yellow, that was kind of funny. Like, if you ask me, like, again, y'all said... let me think, because, like... Yellow is one of my favorite flowers, and the way yellow bounces off blue is pretty interesting, but honestly, I don't know, like, blue just seems a little forgettable to me, mainly because blue is just, like, kind of soft-spoken. Like I said earlier in the stream, I like more boisterous and loud characters. Like, I really like Rules Card, for example. So, like, a character like blue that's a bit more subtle and quiet, I mean, I get that, and there are a lot of people that love characters like that. Same thing with green. Like, everyone loves green, right? Because, silent character makes good food, everyone likes it. I don't know, like, for me, it's just, like, I think green is a character that's, like, too easy to like. I know that sounds kind of cynical, or, like, too, like, sad or angry or whatever, but, I mean, I don't not like green. I like green, but I don't like green as much as some of the other characters, because, like, it's easy to make a likable character that can't speak. That's the thing. You can make a cute, like, puppy, likable character that everyone loves, and it's easy because they don't say anything that can piss people off. You know who does say stuff that pisses people off? Orange. A lot of people hate Orange because Orange is kind of annoying. But I kind of like Orange because Orange has such a mouth on her. So, I don't know. Not a lot of people like blue. I'm kind of in that camp. It's just like, I don't find blue to be particularly extremely interesting. Sorry about the music. But, like, in comparison to a character like Yellow, we don't even spend a ton of time around Blue. Like, we spend a lot more time around Yellow with his antics, telling him to not off himself. So, yeah, I don't know. It's part of it's screen time, part of it's outspokenness, I guess. People like Orange because they hate Ralsei. I mean, people just like seeing Ralsei get rage bait in this chapter, me included, but still. Okay, let's keep going. So now, that was the actual game itself, mostly talking about it. Let's get to the theorizing side of it, right? Less my own original thoughts, more so me talking about what the community's talking about. Let's start with Knight candidates, shall we? So, let's start with the obvious, Death Knight. You know, Death Knight is kind of predominant now, and there are still people that, talk about, oh, what about the voice in the code, and how can it be the Knight? How can you find the Knight if the Knight's already Death? Like, you still have discourse about it. If you ask me who my favorite Knight candidate was before Chapter 5, well, who I thought it was versus favorite candidate. If you ask me who my favorite candidate is, I would say Rudy. Honestly, like, I've seen a lot of good Rudy Knight theories pre-Chapter 5, but back to Des. There's a good chance it's probably Des, but since it's become the default, you see a lot of the community going, people, dogging on other people for not agreeing that it's Death Knight, dogpiling them because it's the most obvious candidate. Pardon me. Kind of like a stigma around Death Knight fans being not willing to at least hear other people out. I don't know. I like it when they're the horses in the race are a bit more even, like there's more even chances and the teams are more balanced, I guess, if that makes any sense. Let's see. I have one Knight theory. I think the Knight is Eram. We fought Eram before the Knight. Eram's optional, keep that in mind. Second Eram could work because we have only seen Eram in the digital form and it would be a crazy reveal. Well, there is that theory that Eram, or the Shadow Mantle, is with King in Chapter 1. Like, some people say Eram is the mantle, some people say that Eram just had the mantle and gave it away. I think it's the second. I think Eram had the mantle, but, there's Eram's whole connection to the mantle, and I guess, that might be supportive evidence since, But then again, didn't King only say he heard about the Knight? Didn't King say he never actually physically met the Knight? In one of the later chapters when you talk to him in Castletown? I don't know, I'm going off on a tangent. Yeah, someone in chat just said that. Isn't John T. Mantle... Yeah, Astro said that. The John T. Mantle, the mantle. Because we don't know if the mantle is the mantle or... I mean, if the mantle is the mantle. We don't know if John Mantle is the mantle or just has the mantle. Anyway, aside from Death Knight, because that's, people have spoken everything to death about Death Knight. One other thing is, why try to find Des if she's already working with Carol? Does Carol know the Knight is Des if Des is the Knight? What does Carol know about the Knight? How much does Carol know in general? That's a question. Going back to Rudy, I was a Rudy Knighter pre-chapter because of some of the theories I saw, but now that he's kind of fallen down and in the hospital and has all these eyes on him, I don't think Rudy's the Knight. like, I don't, how could Rudy, like, find a way to slip away from the hospital with all these people trying to take care of him and he's, like, on his deathbed, you know? It really probably isn't Rudy Knight even more, anymore, but it was fun to think about it. Let's see. But one thing that really convinced me before Chapter 5 was that dialogue that he had with, if you bring Susie in, if you had never brought Susie to meet Rudy before, and you only bring her to meet Rudy after the fight against the Knight in Chapter 3, and Rudy's, like, kind of rude and standoffish against her. Like, why did you bring her here? And, like, people debate that that dialogue doesn't really matter, but, like, I don't know. It's just, like, why have that dialogue be so pointed otherwise? So that's what kind of one of the things that helped made me a Rudy Knighter pre-Chapter 5. Horses in the race now. The Knight is an amalgamate, Gaster-born intercade. All are Gaster, that's a stupid song, but I love it. How would Undyne get taken from Chris's house to the bunker if she can lift cars? A lot, like, that's a question for a lot of candidates. Like, you could ask that question with a lot of Death Knight candidates. Some people are saying if it's Carol, and, like, okay, let's talk about Carol. If Carol's the Knight, some people would argue that once the Knight gets out of the light world, Undyne only sees Carol there, and, like, Carol's like, oh, you're in danger, we gotta go somewhere safe, come with me, and the two run across town, because, like, I don't know, maybe she doesn't, like, Carol just looks like Carol in the light world, so I'm not really a Carol Knighter, but then you have the whole meme. I really like that meme about toilet theory, with, like, Skibbity Carol going down the toilet. Let me see if I can find the video for that. It was like a Chapter 4 era meme, but, Carol Toilet Knights. Oh, no, Toilet Theory meme. Can I find it here? Shoot, I don't know what to look up to get it, but, like, it was like a video of Carol. Oh wait, is this it? I think this might be it. Does it actually have the meme in the background? The meme's only, like, kinda in the background. But, like, Carol goes into the sewer system through the toilet and pops out at the church before Chris and Susie get there to make the fountains. It was a shitpost, but it was funny. Chris Noel Amalgamate Night Theory. Oh, thank you for reminding me. Did I have a section for that? Yes, it's slightly below her. Let me get through all the rest of this first. Yeah, we were talking about, Carol and the, kidnapping strength for kidnapping Asgore and kidnapping, Undyne, or why you would kidnap them. Like, police sacrifice, what's that about? Does Carol know about Gaster? Probably not. Yeah, some people are theorizing that the Carol's conspiracy group was trying to make dark worlds to locate where Des is in the dark and, like, try to find out exactly where she is so they can pull her up during the roaring or something. There is, someone made a... Oh, I forgot much... I watched a lot of theory videos when I made this, like, outline, but I forgot what a lot of them were about. This person, Paper Theory Craft, made a video that I thought was interesting called Mirror Theory, and it had, like, something talking about a possible Noel Knight or kind of Noel Knight character, sort of theory. Oh, there was another thing. Isn't the thing where, like, one of the Knight's cries is, like, a pitched version of Noel screaming? Or maybe I heard that wrong, or maybe I'm wrong, but... I don't know if that actually meant anything or not, or if that's even true or not. These are notes I took a while ago, so I forgot exactly. Yellow versus red compartmentalization. I think that was talking about the colors of the soul, or, like Noel maybe has a yellow soul. Again, I forgot exactly what all this was, but I don't know if Noel's going to be a candidate. I'd rather talk about Amalgam Knight theory. Carol's a bum. What about, will we see Gaster and Deltarune, like, fully revealed? I don't know if we will, or not at least until Chapter 7. Just makes a fountain in an ambulance. I don't know hearing about that. Yeah, I've never heard that one. Sorry here, I need to keep coughing. I'm talking so fast that, like, I'm irritating my throat. I'm sorry. Where were we? There's someone that animated Chris, Des, Carol, Gaster, and Papyrus all working together, but Des was the Knight, and the animation was for the puppies. Someone was saying there are a bunch of Knights, but they all keep taking turns. I think that was an old theory, like Chapter 2 era theory. The Knight is Noel's fear that she likes after gaining his soul, and she goes back in times and turns into the Roaring Knight. Well, I mean, isn't that kind of tying into Amalgam Knight? Because, like, you had the time travel shenanigans with Amalgam Knight. If you ask me what I think about Amalgam Knight, because I've heard a few theories about it, I don't really believe it. I'm not convinced of it, but I think it gets a bad rap. Like, I like it as a concept. I think it's really good as, like, an AU possibility, like people making stories based on Amalgam Knight. But, I think people, like, kind of get really angry at Amalgam Knight believers, or, like, people talking about it. I don't know. I think it's an overhated theory, even if, you know, there is some evidence that goes against it. I have to watch one of the, like, debunking theories again. I don't remember off the top of my head. I don't personally believe Amalgam Knight theory, but it is a really interesting concept, and I like it as a theory. Like, it's a neat theory in its conception. Let's get to Asriel as a candidate. Now, of course, everyone dunks on Jaru Jaru's, Piles of Asriel's Dust theory and its sequel. And rightfully so. I think the Piles of Asriel's Dust theory is kind of silly, just with the whole, oh, Asriel's not actually a college bit, but, I mean, someone did bring up a concept of, like, maybe if Asriel did come back before the story, it's weird that he was trying to kidnap Toriel and Asgore, and he couldn't actually kidnap Toriel, or he didn't, so that might throw a wrench into things, but, like, is he trying to save them from the Roaring? Like, is he trying to get a lifeboat into that shelter worth of people, and then start the Roaring? Why kidnap Undyne? Why the police sacrifice bit? That's the whole thing here. Like, we still have no clue exactly what the police sacrifice thing is gonna be. Like, we are pretty much still in the dark about that. Here, let me pull chat back up. What is Asriel's, role in Deltarune? I mean, like, he's been, like, a Chekhov's gun for so long, right? Every single chapter, people were like, oh, Chris, it's too bad Asriel isn't here right now. You're okay, but everyone loves your brother, Asriel. When's he getting back? I'm glad that he's gonna be back from college soon. Toriel's like, oh, it's too bad you can't go to the festival with Asriel this year. Like, why do you keep mentioning him if he's not gonna be important to the story? Like, come on. It's a loaded gun. And someone made that, like, animation of, like, Black Noir from The Boys taking off, like, the night mask, and it's actually Asriel underneath with, like, the whole excuse me sir bullshit. Would the Vessel, Susie, and Rolsey be prophecy breakers in Chapter 7? If you want to break the prophecy, I think aborted Weird Route is the way to go, but I'll get into that later. There was another theory that was huge with that. And then people were like, does college even exist or not? Because, like, if there is the whole Gaster simulation shit, which we will get into, is there even a college that exists? Or is it outside of this bubble that Hometown is, and then you just step outside the bubble and it's like nothing, or the depths or something, because you're in, like, a snow globe. I don't know. Snow globe theory, if you know what that is. But we'll get to it. Yeah, that's what the whole thing with the depths is. And we also with the Knight, we don't know what the Knight's actual intentions are. If the Knight wants to cause the Roaring, the Knight could have done that way earlier, probably, so why is the Knight not caused the Roaring in, like, Chapter 2 or whatever? 100% Asriel in Chapter 7, 6, Chapter 1, Soriel says Asriel coming back in under a week. How do people get out of Hometown? Well, I mean, there is the police tape, and yeah, sure, people could probably easily walk around the police tape. But it seems like people are thinking Carol's putting that police tape up specifically to keep Chris here, because people think, you know, Carol knows about the soul with the red "you are welcome here anytime," you know, glowing red "you. So if Carol knows about this, man, I'm talking way too much. I'm gonna die. Oh my lord. If Carol knows about the soul in Chris, then Carol would want to make sure that the police can keep Chris trapped there in town. So, I don't know. And then somehow Chris and Noelle break out during the Weird Route through the lake. Oh, speaking more of Hometown, what's with the Goner Gang? What are they gonna do? Because you had, obviously, the Hometown Butcher, and half of people are like, this is just a gag, Onion isn't actually dead, or Other people are saying Onion isn't dead, but they captured Onion and they're chopping off limbs of him to make the takoyaki. While other people are saying that, you know, they murked him cartel style, because him, them, whatever gender Onion is. They murked Onion to, you know, because Onion knew too much, found out the song Coming from the Deep. Carol is a Gaster. No, what do you mean, is Carol a Gaster follower? I don't think Carol is a Gaster follower. Carol, like, has her own ambitions. Obviously, I think Carol, whatever Carol's doing is in some way related to Des, obviously. But back to this. It's interesting, next to the Hometown Butcher in the festival, there's the, other Goner talking about fun value, as well. We got so many Gasterisms. We got, like, 3 different characters in Chapter 5 saying very, very interesting, including Asgore. So what's with all this very, very interesting bullshit? Is it Gaster fucking with us? Like, what's going on here? Gaster henchmen. Like, you have multiple Gaster henchmen around town, multiple people that are Goners in Undertale. And also a normal NPC has been blocking the books. We don't even know what the books upstairs are about, because he's been progressively blocking the books, and we can't even go to the library in Chapter 5, I don't think. So we don't know what's in those books. Why is he protecting them? Is there, like, Gaster shit in those books? This is my water jug. I'm gonna get more water as well. Oh, here's the other thing. This guy, Werisdrim, or whatever you pronounce it as, he made something called Splat Theory. I'm not gonna, like, play it, but, what was it called? Deltarune. It's a 6-hour-long theory that only has a small amount of views. So it has 24k views, but I watched this full 6-hour theory during work over the course of a few days, and what I remember about it is that the icy guys are weird. Because, like, there's the dunk tank with the one guy that dissolved, and this guy's saying, like, oh, when it, multiple people in Hometown, if they get water on them, they're made out of darkness or something, so if they get water on them, like, it ties into the Gaster depths bullshit, and if the Gaster followers and other people are made out of, like, depths bullshit, if they get water on them, like in Splatoon, if an Inkling from Splatoon falls into water, they get splatted or whatever, because their skin dissolves and, like, gets into their membrane and stuff. It's weird. It is a weird theory, but I kind of liked it for how creative and out there it was. But it is 6 hours long. You got a little friend poking up there. Why is the only Undertale character who got actually changed to Deltarune just Monster Kid to Monster Teen? That is kind of weird. Like, good thing you mentioned that. Monster Kid's missing. And this, what's the other snow guy that he's friends with? Was it Snowy or is it something else? Because, like, with that, those two are not seen in Chapter 5, I don't think. Because they were standing near the door to the bunker in one of the earlier chapters, and they're just gone now. The Snowdrake, that might have been who I was talking about. Whoever Monster Teen's friend was. Also, with the age difference, you know, some characters are older than they were in Undertale, so we don't know if they're copies of Undertale characters made in Gaster's device or something, or other timeline bullshit shenanigans. The upstairs books. Oh yeah, I already talked about the upstairs books here. So that's with the Goner gang. We talked a bit about Onion Sin already, but people were like, did they take him to the meat factory? Is the meat factory under the lake? Like, or is the meat factory the true lab from Undertale? Was Gaster using meat to make all of the people in this simulation of Deltarune? If Deltarune is a simulation, is it a simulation or not? Is it a dark world in a dark world? But I think we will have Meat Factory payoff. I think Meat Factory will be a location in either Chapter 6 or at least Chapter 7 Side B. Like, I don't know if it's going to be Weird Route or Main Route or maybe both. But since we had Happy Town, I think we are going to get more sound test payoff from Undertale. Monster Teen is Goner Kid. Well, I mean, like, different ages too, right? Kendrick Lamar. Okay, Robert Rotter, very cool. But yeah, it would be weird to not have more payoff for the sound test stuff, since we already had Happy Town. And then the Goner Maker sequence, people were saying that at the beginning of Deltarune, the Goner Maker sequence is taking place in the meat factory. Because, you know, you have a cage made out of human parts. Not, like, you know, just separate parts that you swap around that are made and assembled in a meat factory, you know? Um, well, people think we might hand the vessel off, sorry, our soul into a new vessel. Like, maybe Chris becomes incapacitated, or it, pulls us out, or something happens with Chris, and we might have a section of the game where we play as a vessel from the Goner Maker. Like, the vessel comes back or something like that, or we fight the vessel. Oh god, my voice is giving out. Give me a sec. I'm gonna play the music again. I'm gonna get some water. Give me a second. I need more water. Oh lord, I'm gonna die. I've never talked this much before. Give me a sec, I gotta get more water. Oh lord. I like Chris, I don't want to leave my friend. I mean, I get that. Like, we will probably have some ultimate heart-to-heart with Chris at some point. Like, it would be really cool to have Chris actually speak to us for once. Near the end of the game. Like, imagine that. Like, actually having a conversation with Chris. I think Mr. Beast is gonna be in Chapter 6. He's the one funding Gaster, obviously. Speaking of Gaster, I love the pirate and pharaoh memes, or like the memes of having Gaster be all these weird different jobs or things. All the shit posts, pirate Gaster, yarhar. What if we could type stuff to Chris? You have to be careful about it, because like you don't want it to be like some like AI generated conversation, and I don't think Toby would do that, but you'd have to have like a very highly curated thing. I don't know if he'd go in depth enough to make a thing where we could actually type to Chris. It might just be a bunch of pre-made responses. I don't know. But let's see. We don't exactly know Gaster's goals. There was a theory. This theory here that I put fine. It's a theory called from F_mega_omega. Let's see. Let me see if I can find this theory. F_mega_omega. No. That's not what no, it needs to be a channel. Oh, I misspelled it. Channels. There it is. So, this one. Oh, he just made a part 2 that's 2 hours long. Okay, I'm not gonna watch this here, but he made a sequel to it. But this original one, basically, this theory here was talking about, how Gaster was doing all this research into Deltarune to try to prevent a being like Flowey from destroying his world and bringing his version of the prophecy to bear, with destroying the underground and killing everyone. And in the end, it kind of wraps up saying Gaster falls into his creation, even though that's on purpose, because he wants to see the end of Deltarune for himself, so he like gets inside the device, but it breaks somehow because of the aborted weird route. It like centers on the aborted weird route with a magnetic tape having a side A and a side B. If you do an aborted weird route, that's like forcing a side C, and a side C doesn't exist on a tape like that when you insert Chapter 7 side B or whatever. So if you try to do that, it's gonna break something, and it's gonna end up, like, I think he was saying that it ended up with Gaster being identified by the program as the one that the prophecy says must be banished to meet with its desire. Instead of the player being that one. Like, the game shifts that focus to Gaster instead of the player, and then Gaster gets shattered or something. It was an interesting theory. I'm really summarizing a lot of it, but I like that theory a lot. We fight Chapter 6. I don't know about Chapter 6, though. I don't know. Where were we? And then there's this whole thing with Forgotten Man, right? And the eggs. So, with Forgotten Man, this theory also did something where it was saying that Gaster wanted to test variables in Deltarune. And one of those variables is the mental health of the people in Hometown. And some of you might have heard the theory that Gaster was a therapist in Deltarune, and he was erased. This theory thinks that I think Gaster erased himself to test the variable of what if Hometown didn't have a copy of Gaster being the therapist? What if Hometown had no therapist? And the results of that are, being played out in what we see in the game, or something like that. And that's one of the many variables Gaster is testing, alongside the involvement of the player, seeing if the prophecy can be subverted, or something like that. And that ties into, there being maybe 2 Gasters, where the Undertale Gaster is studying and partially erased the Deltarune Gaster. And the eggs, with the PlayStation achievements not finishing it properly, if you find any of the eggs, where, Undertale Gaster doesn't want you to find the eggs, because that's like Chris remembering the therapist Gaster, or something like that, and that's something that is not part of the test he's trying to do. Yeah, we don't know how the prophecy's gonna end either. We don't know the last panel there. Yeah, we had the therapy thing as a test variable, and the twisted route breaking it. We still need to cover the whole thing with, the friend revelations with Pink, where it's, the eggs and protein. That will get resolved in either Chapter 6 or 7. I think we will see Friend in some form. I think it might be a mob enemy, and we have to fight them off because they're targeting us. But that's the scenario where Chris might lose their hand. We don't know ultimately why the cats are finding protein. Maybe it's them, Gaster or whoever's controlling the cats saying, hey, these eggs are related to this forgotten guy, and we need to get all these eggs so no one remembers him, and so he sends the cats after them. And what's the deal with peepees, with Spamton? What's the whole deal with those peepees? And, if they look like eggs, is that why Spamton's hiding? Did the cats think those are protein? Did Spamton change the way he looks to hide from the cats? Some people were saying he didn't, but that's an interesting theory, too. Let's see. If Chris loses an arm and it gets replaced by a friendly friend. What, a friend becomes his arm? Isn't that a thing in Adventure Time where, he gets, a grass arm or something? It's been a long time since I've seen Adventure Time. Not since I was a kid. But, having, this shape-shifting friendling as Chris's new arm or something? That would be interesting. Okay, Weird Route. Let's talk a little bit about the Weird Route in more detail. I love Chapter 5's Weird Route, even though it's kind of short. I love the melancholy with Chris sleeping in, and Susie can tell something's wrong, but Susie kind of is just trying to make sure Chris has a little bit of happiness. I think Susie has a lot more empathy for Chris, and is a lot more patient with Chris in the Weird Route of Chapter 5 than in the normal route. Because earlier I talked about the whole thing with the normal route, and Susie being kind of possessive of Chris during the events of that, and being kind of inconsiderate in some ways without fully realizing it. But then in Weird Route, Susie's just kind of gives Chris more space and tries to cheer Chris up. Then gets grass arm and it turns into a grass fin. That's what happened. I like Chapter 5 Weird Route since it's my favorite when I drown my vessel a lot. A lot of people just hate Chris, but in a mean way. I don't know. But with the Weird Route, then you get to the lake, right? And the whole cutscene with Noelle talking about her being just a Noelle, peak. Actually peak. I love the concept of a character like Noelle kind of finally breaking. Especially in Chapter 4 with the cutscene in Chapter 4 in her house. And then following that, she's completely mentally broken, and she's like, well, everything I know has been a lie. Everything I knew is falling apart. Let's do something crazy. And she just goes completely, literally off the deep end, dragging Chris with her. And then after the while where you can't even say stop. And the face sprites for Noelle during this whole cutscene. I think Noelle is 10 times more of an interesting character in the Weird Route than in the normal route. I'm not saying Noelle's a bad character in the normal route, but that makes me wonder, Noelle's gonna crash the hell out if it's an aborted Weird Route. Getting that close, having that denied from you, and then getting involved with the Dark World shenanigans after having you know, being just a Noelle with the aborted weird root. Noelle's gonna do some seriously messed up stuff in the aborted weird root. I can tell you that much. Let's see. Gaster crew rescue Chris and Noelle from the depths. Yeah, yeah, matey, welcome aboard me vessel. Oh Lord. Where were we then? I like that there's that one chapter that has Susie say lake skip when she's skipping a stone, like foreshadowing with that. And then you have this lake skip where people are, you know, theorizing that they're gonna wake up in the meat factory or something, or they're gonna wake up in the True Lab or something, where they're going to glitch out of this snow globe. And Chapter 7 Side B is gonna be them outside the bounds of the game, whether it be in wherever the Goner Maker sequence takes place in the depths or in the meat factory. People are debating Noelle might be used up. In fact, Noelle and Chris might be used up with the whole sword root thing, where people were saying sword root is talking about the aborted weird, not the aborted weird root, but like people are debating if that's aborted weird root or twisted root or the weird root being depicted in the sword root. But there's the whole thing where, you know, Chris and Noelle get used up in the sword root. So it's like, what if we start Chapter 7 Side B, and it's just the soul next to the dead bodies of Noelle and Chris? And then the soul has to find a new vessel in the meat factory or something. Because that would be crazy, honestly. And then Trouble Dingle. Yeah, because that's in the sound test too, Trouble Dingle. I mean, that might be like an alarm in the factory? I don't know, because Trouble Dingle, it's kind of hard to place what that would be if there is a parallel from Undertale to Deltarune, right? And even, you know, the songs sound different. Happy Town sounds very different in Deltarune versus Undertale. Let's see. Yeah, we talked about used up. There's a theory going around, too, that the town and the people in the town were overwritten from something previous. Like Gaster had a copy of some equivalent of Dragon Blazers or some other game, and he used his survey program to overwrite whatever was there before Hometown. Or if Hometown was there before, he, like in the Simpsons movie, basically places a giant dome over the town. Not literally, but, like, using the survey program in the code. He places a dome over Hometown and cuts it off from everything outside. That's why we haven't heard from Asriel, because he's in college, and college is outside of Hometown, and we don't see anything outside of Hometown because it may not even exist. So we don't know if the weird root, you know, is them escaping that bubble. Sans punch card having Chris, Susie, and Rolls, I saying don't forget. Yeah, the whole punch card scene, too, with Chris and Sans. The whole thing with that, right? People were debating, because wasn't it a thing where if it's in the normal route, it can either be 3 or 4 people drawn if you add Rolls or not, but then in the weird route, it's only 3 people no matter what, which matches with a punch card? Like, is that supposed to be something we take notice of? Or is it meant to be 3 people in both versions? So that makes it think, like, is the canon ending the weird route or something? Like, is there even a canon ending? Is there only one ending, like the Steam page says? Oh, it's too bad your phone died. True weird route might be canon. It might be. Like, because that might theoretically break out of it, but I think that's not... It's like, is the weird route breaking the prophecy and achieving the thing that Gaster wants? Or is the abortive weird route doing that? Or is the abortive weird route, that twisted route, doing something else? Is the twisted route the opposite of what Gaster wants? I don't know. It's weird, because we don't know what the thematic difference is between this twisted route, theoretically, with the twisted sword and the pure crystal, is versus a straight-on weird route. Or what these differences might be, basically. Let's keep going here. What's the whole deal with Sham? Right? Because Sham wants to make this thing with the shadow crystals. Sham is kind of implied to not have much of a reason to live until we start finding these shadow crystals, and then Sham gets interested. And Sham's like, well, maybe there's something I can do. And obviously there's the twisted sword in the code, all the unused stuff with the pure crystal, and, you know, the start of whatever theoretical twisted route. What does Sham want? we don't know anything about what Sham wants, really. Like, in Chapter 5, all Sham really does is tell us about, you know, oh, you're almost there with the Shadow Crystals, and the Shadow Crystals are lost dreams. So we finally know what the Shadow Crystals are, but, like, what is this ultimate thing that we're trying to do with them? Are we making another Black Knight? I don't know. Maybe Twisted Sword can kill enemies? I mean, and what's gonna happen to Birdly? Think about it with the weird, like, if we have an aborted weird route, what's gonna happen to Birdly if we snowgrave Birdly? Is that gonna get resolved? Or are we gonna have, like, a New Vegas-style ending? Where, like, you know, in a lot of Fallout games, including New Vegas, you have the ending that goes into micro-detail with different slides about what happened to each sub-faction or group of people you interacted with. And little parts of that can change based off of what you did during your route, even if it's like a minor thing that doesn't matter a ton, you know? Genocide isn't canon, Weird Deltarune isn't canon. Well, we don't know yet. Some things might be subverted. We don't know what's going to be canon, or if there's even going to be multiple endings. What if all these routes collapse back into some singularity at the end? It might truly actually have one ending, but we don't know. Shadow Crystals being lost dreams is the easiest MacGuffin that makes dreams come true fuel I've ever seen. We are 100% saving Des one way or another. As happy as it would be to save Des, like, imagine the whole thematic thing of forcing Carol to let go of Des. Like, what if it's a thing where they are almost able to save Des, but she's, like, fatally wounded from whatever process saves her? And, like, Carol and the rest of them can spend their last moments saying their final goodbyes with Des before she's actually properly laid to rest. Like, that would also hit hard thematically, too, you know? I don't know if that's actually gonna happen. Earlier someone says, if you get the eggs and you don't get the advancement when you complete the game without issues, why are the eggs an issue? I did mention that earlier. We talked about that earlier. Why did the achievements in PlayStation say it's an issue? Maybe Gaster doesn't want you remembering the Forgotten Man. Let's see. Sham is an apathetic character corrupted either by Friend's owner or Gaster's words that spread through Jevil. We don't know a ton about the whole history with Jevil and Sham. Like, there's people saying that maybe, you know, there is a whole thing with Jevil going on a rampage killing people and then, but used to be good friends with Sham or something, but we don't know the extent of that. Let's see, what else are y'all saying? Twisted Sword has a trance effect with a down arrow, but it does not say it's down, so it might be a placeholder. Some people are, one of those theories I mentioned earlier mentioned that, a theory that the Twisted route might decrease trance on Chris, but since Chris might be, like, since Chris is so much different than everyone else in Hometown, what if going trance down on Chris meant that you're erasing Chris's personality and letting you completely take control, because Chris, like, reverted to a base form, or something like that. I don't know how true that is or not, but, like, it would have the opposite effect that you think it is, and using the Twisted Sword would allow you to fully possess Chris and surrender all of Chris's autonomy to you. I don't know. Let's see. Oh gosh, y'all are chatting fast. Let me read all these. Weird route completely derailed. No way it's the same ending. I would like it to not be the same ending. I would like multiple endings. I'm just saying it's a possibility. Shadow Crystal reveal is a hint to the identity of the knight. I kind of want you to elaborate on that. Death Knight is not a bad theory, it's just there are better alternatives now. Well, what are your knight candidates now? Now that Chapter 5 is done, who do you think is the knight, everyone in chat? Because I don't have a full answer yet. I don't think I've decided on a post-Chapter 5 knight candidate yet. It's definitely not Rudy, though. Used to be Rudy for me, but I don't think it's Rudy anymore. I had to guess, we can't save the deaths everyone else wants to save, but we can save the deaths that exist right now, and they have to move beyond that nostalgia and giving her the vessel? Ooh, we give Des the vessel? And then the player stops playing? We just said, ooh, that's interesting. Hot take, Eram is the secret boss of Chapter 3. I thought that was accepted, because, you know, Eram's optional. I thought that's not a hot take. Twisted Sword can go on Noelle too. Oh, it can? Ooh, we might have even more options then. Characters romanticize and obsess over saving Des, the disappeared, the cool older sister, but the real Des who can be saved, antisocial weirdo, is the one who needs our help. Well, I mean, is Des not the one lost in the code, though? Like, where does the voice in the code factor into all of this is my question. The other... Man, you all are chatting fast. The other secret bosses give you shadow crystals, but Eram gives you the shadow mantle, which makes it easier to beat the knight to get the shadow crystal. Yeah, that's true. I wonder where you're going with it. Lost hopes and dreams knight. Oh, that's another knight theory, is no knight, or the knight is its own thing knight, where knight isn't any specific character, the knight is like this thing made of the same stuff the Titans is made of, and maybe Ralsei's made of the same thing, and they're like given their own will through some other means, where they're not some other character, they're their own thing. Like, that's also a knight candidate. 3 bosses in Chapter 3, one is Eram, one is the knight, and one is Tenna. Interesting you called knight specifically a shadow boss. Because, I mean, yeah, the knight is not an optional fight. You have to fight the knight, so I guess it kind of, like, makes it not secret. What if you were the knight? I was the knight the whole time! I'm a criminal! Oh, I need to do myself a justice! Oh, look, it's Flower Man. Knight is more of the Chapter 3 final boss part 2. Yeah, that kind of makes sense as well. Culmination of the town's lost hopes and dreams from Des, with the will of Des and central death. Yeah, someone made a theory like that, I think, where everyone's hopes and dreams of trying to get Des back, everyone's collective longing for having Des back is coalescing into the Knight, and the Knight is the culmination of everyone longing for Des back. So that's also a theory. Echo Knight theory, Des is dead, and an echo of her personality transformed by the shelter Dark Fountain. That kind of ties into it too, where that's an interesting candidate. I'm almost kind of leaning, that's a good candidate. Like, I might settle on that, maybe, as my post-Chapter 5 Knight candidate. Game will pose the question, are you willing to sacrifice your autonomy in this game to save a character you may not even care about, but who the characters want to save? If that is the ending, if that is the central question, then they should at least reward us with letting us see what all the characters do after the ending for us. Like, let us watch through a window these nice ending cutscenes and vignettes, even though we are gone from the game, showing us the happy ending that this theoretically buys, if we do make that sacrifice. Imo, the voice in the code is her soul, the knight is her body. I've heard that theory too. That's also a popular theory. A lot of these are like one giant sub-theory with all these branches, with like this non-person knight, or whatever. Or Echo Knight, you know? Let's see. Remember how Chapter 2 has a fight against Queen and Birdly, but then there's a fight against Mecha Queen. Well, yeah, I mean, you can have stages. Like, that's almost like stages of boss fights, even though there's some time in between the two fights. But, I don't know, like, I don't think there has to be a huge structure for bosses. I think everyone's trying to slot bosses into all these specific labels, but in reality, video games have multiple bosses all the time. Like, I don't think Toby's, like, trying to restrict people to making you think there's only a specific amount of bosses per chapter, you know? Because obviously he did say there is one boss, well, he did imply there is one boss in Chapter 6 with the newsletter, so we'll see if that's actually true or not, but... Yeah, the Onion Sand song. Yep, let's see. There are 2 Grand Fountains. One is Hometown and the other is the Shelter. Hometown itself? Like, you mean the one bubbling under the town? Because, you know, Flowery did say that there's some darkness under the town. And someone's saying, like, is the whole sewer system... It's toilet theory again. Is the sewer system one giant dark world? You know? Chapter 3 does something similar with a fight against Tenna and then a fight against the Knight. Knight is not a secret boss if they're mandatory. Well, yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. It's just, I don't think there's as much structure as people think there is. No Lightner fits perfectly and cleanly into the Knight. That is true. Every Knight theory has some sort of flaws. And then soft locks on the characters, moving on to enjoy their lives like Super Mario RPG soft locking on fireworks after you win. I did not know Super Mario RPG did that. Is that true? I've never played the game. Des not being the knight means the whole... Des said she'd take me to the, to a place like Cyber City where Queen is like Carol and the moon is a baseball as purposeful misdirect. It is weird how many parallels Chapter 2 has, though, to the relationship between Des and Noelle. Like, it's so weird where, you know, all these things explicitly point to things that the two of them had talked about. Because, like, I think there has to be some thematic tie. Like, if the Knight did make that fountain, then that would still kind of make sense. I don't know. Because, like, does the Knight have enough... The knight has enough determination somehow, because the knight opened the fountain inside the fountain in Chapter 4. So if the knight's been making some fountains, and if the knight made the Chapter 2 fountain, even if the knight is not a person specifically, if it is an echo or something like that, how does this echo have determination? How does this echo have the ability to create fountains? That's another thing to consider. Because, like, it would make sense thematically if even with Echo Knight, if it's the memories of Death that's part of the Knight, then having the Knight make a dark world with all these memory parallels for Noelle in Chapter 2 still would kind of make sense, aside from, you know, how does the Knight have the ability to do that, I guess. Let me keep reading. You guys are typing a lot. Northern Light Theory, after Noelle and Chris drown, Gaster's device bugs out and creates another Chris and Noelle who never did the route, but our Noelle and Chris bug out of the device. I think I heard someone say that once. Now that is a neat idea, but we only really see, like, it makes you wonder, is aborting the weird route right there in Chapter 5 part of that? Like, is it two sides of the same coin? Is it like an A and a B timeline, where if we, in A we succeed, but if it does create a second copy, are they the ones in the B timeline? Like, what if the people in the B timeline thought they were mashing Proceed hard enough, but there had to be someone in the B timeline, so it still failed anyway? Like, is it a yin-yang thing, or is it two separate timelines? Is this really a thing that's happening, or... I don't know. Because that would be neat if it duplicates them. But that would make you wonder how Chapter 6 is gonna work. Like, would it assume that you're playing on, like, an aborted save if you're playing Chapter 6, aside from, like, a save with the weird route? I don't know. Let's see. The disconnections are actually because her mom, dad, boyfriend, Papyrus wants to save her that much would be a generational fumble. Well, I mean, if you, like, I'm not a full believer of, like, a Echo Knight thing, but if the Knight were theoretically something that was a combination of everyone's memory, but it's still its own being, I guess, and then that would have the memories of it, yeah, sure, it's a bit shaky, and you can poke holes in it. I'm not saying it's, like, I'm not saying I directly believe in this theory. I'm just, like, I like talking about these possibilities. And there are some cool thematic parallels, but, you know, for every parallel that is picked up by a theory, it shoves two more to the side. Like, Toby's been sowing all these little seeds and references that some theory will not pick up every one of them. Every theory will have little crumbs of good stuff that it leaves behind, if you think about it. And it makes you wonder, how many of these crumbs does Toby want to leave behind? What is Toby planning with that? There's no really satisfying answer for any of these theories, because all of these theories leave something behind, if you think about it. Let's see. What do we all think Chapter 6 will focus on? Again, I've said it's probably either well, obviously, it's only normal route in Chapter 6, from what we are aware of. Or, you know, Twisted Route. But, like, either Holiday Manor Dark World, or Hospital, or both. We might get both. I don't know if we will get both, but with Rudy, like, the whole thing with Noelle finding about Rudy falling down, that has to, I think, be one of the big sparks for the new Dark World in Chapter 6. Now, some people are saying Chapter 6 won't have a Dark World, but I think that's just kind of weird. Like, we're getting into the, like, crazy stuff, and whatever happens if Chapter 6 has a Dark World, which I think it will, whatever happens in there might start leaning into the actual, you know, more horror aspects, or, like, you know, have a way more serious tone like Chapter 4, which makes sense, because obviously everyone's been saying, like Toby's been hinting, you know, it's time for the story to get serious now. Let's see. If I had to make an educated guess, Susie and Noelle are gonna do some beyond impossible stuff to save Death despite her being supposed to pass away no matter what. With the pure crystal, maybe? Probably exactly what the side B theory means. It'd also take a lot of agency away from Des herself, because if she's not an active mover and shaker of the story, then what does she do besides be Miss and have her song play when people are sad? I've seen people make that argument before, and there is a lot to say for that, because, like, yes, that is theoretically robbing Des of a lot of her potential as a character, and a lot of her ability to do things in the story. If I were to play devil's advocate for it, some characters just are like that. Some stories have characters who have their agency taken away. It's not like it has to be an impossibility. Now, would it let a lot of people down? Would it be disappointing to a lot of people? Yes. Yes, it would. But it's still possible. Toby might decide that that is a route he wants to take, even if that decision takes away some of the thematic weight of Des as her own person. I'm not saying it's a good idea, I'm just saying it's not impossible, and we shouldn't write it off just because Toby wouldn't do that. We don't know what Toby's gonna do. Like, I don't think we should write anything off because saying, I don't think Toby would let that happen. Because, like, that's kind of like a way to quickly shut down stuff without even giving it a thought. I don't know. All your theories are pretty cool. Play my game, Lamau. More important question is, would you be happy with an unambiguous good ending versus where the whole fun gang and Des survive because of the player when Des and Susie were supposed to pass? We're gonna have people die. I'm telling you that much. At the very least, Rudy's dead. We might have a police person die. Now, I don't know if it's gonna be Asgore, former police, or Undyne or someone, but we have to resolve that police sacrifice plotline. We might save a police officer. We might save Undyne or something, but we might lose Asgore. Or Undyne, I don't know. We're gonna have at least 2 named big characters die. I will tell you that much. I'm putting... And that's just purely from me going all in. I don't really have good evidence for it, but at least Rudy's gonna die. Like, there's no way Rudy's not dead at the end of the game. Flowery already died. Well, I mean non-Darkners. I mean, we're gonna have 2 Lighteners die. One of them's gonna sacrifice during the Roaring. We don't know who, but at least 1 Lightener will die during the Roaring. I will tell you that much. Let's see. Let me read more of what you're saying. Side C theory, the Twisted Sword will twist the ending by having a secret stat like failure? Like, an instant fail condition, though, would that be satisfying? Well, I'm falling into my own trappings about saying, Toby wouldn't do something that's not satisfying, so I'm falling into my own words there for a second, but, like, what would the payoff to that be? Where are you going with that? Where do you think the interesting part would be of having an instant fail condition? Or what would that instant fail condition be? That's a better thing to ask. Let's see. Not a Tenna situation either. Well, Tenna can die permanently. Obviously, you have to save you have to recruit everyone to save Tenna. Let's see. After playing Alive, there's a good chance Des opted into being the knight due to being scorned by hometown at large. She decides to go down in infamy because she can't be famous. But again, interesting idea. Makes you wonder, does Des not still care about Noelle? If Des wants to mess everything up, then what's gonna happen with Noelle? Because, like, does Des not still care about her? Like, would causing the Roaring or whatever, or doing all this terrible stuff end up making Noelle's life worse? I don't know if I like the idea of Des being pure evil out of spite. I don't know if that's where you were going with it, but that's what I'm thinking with it. We gotten to the end of the OST. No, we looping this shit. I still got stuff to talk about. We're starting with inappropriate recycling again. Let's see. Ralsei and Rudy will die. Those 2 are the biggest candidates to die. Yeah, Ralsei does have a lot of death flags, to be fair. You know, this whole arc of a character realizing they have all this autonomy when, in the end, they still know, Ralsei still knows he's gotta die. Like, that's why Ralsei didn't want to open up, because Ralsei kind of knew in his heart of hearts that he was gonna die. And, you know, we encouraged Ralsei to open up and have a life with these other characters while he has the chance to. Like, that kind of wraps things up in a neat bow, but it would be sad. Like, obviously it would be sad. Everyone loves Ralsei, except for Chapter 5, where we like him getting bullied, but... Des likely took on the role of Knight so she can direct how fate proceeds, like to achieve the least bad outcome with Chris, since it's fated to happen anything. Oh, one thing I did not talk about. We need resolution to the summoning, the demon summoning that happened, that Caddy talked about, right? Is that the thing that brought the soul into Chris? And how long has the soul been with Chris? Because, you know, at the start of Deltarune, the soul was already with Chris. So, I think Chapter 6 will give us more information on either the disappearance, or Chris being possessed by a demon, or both. I think we might get both, because, like, that's still kind of an unresolved plot thread. Like, you can make assumptions, sure, but we don't know for sure exactly what the summoning was about, what the two of them were trying to do with this summoning, if they were just bored, and if Gaster was involved with it, if Gaster was the demon they ended up summoning, because, like, you know, 666 with all the stats for Gaster, you know, the devil imagery, themes and such. Let's see. The best theory of all time will be Chris Goon theory. Or y'all seen all the stupid memes about, like, the Des accused of grooming Chris memes. Like, I think people take some of these memes way too seriously. They're just memes at the end of the day. Like, come on. I see people get mad over Deltarune memes all the time. Like, people make shitposts. You're in a shitpost community, you're gonna find shitposters. Anyway, let's see. Can we talk about RAM now? We will talk about RAM in just a second. I want to catch up with chat, but thank you for reminding me about RAM. This is going to stop being the knight in Chapter 6 due to either passing or being saved, and Noah will take on the role trying to save Rudy, inadvertently starting the roaring. Oh, you think Des is going to give up being the knight? Oh, I want to think about details about how that would work. What would drive that decision? Well, I mean, maybe her passing, but, like, what would cause her to pass? Teddy's delusional, a faker, Gaster clearly connected us. But we do see the connection with the device thing. But it's implied that Chris has the soul with them before we start taking control of the soul. So I don't know if that was like a seed Gaster planted a long time ago and activated when we came into the mix or something. But we need at least a bit more information. I think it needs to be touched on in Chapter 6. To be fair, Rolsey got the nerd treatment of being shoved into a pantry. yeah, I got shoved in the closet there. And forced to wear the hat. Everyone wanted him to wear the hat again for some reason. I mean, I guess the reason was to hide him from Asgore, even though Asgore's like, you look like, Asriel, but you're not. Interesting. And it was a nothing burger. Demon and Caddy summoning was most likely Eram. The soul being Chris was likely the Knight/Chris interrupting the Goner Maker, so the cage is part of the Knight plot and not our vessel? Well, wait, do you think... Oh god, what if the Knight's light world body is the vessel? I don't know if that's where you were going with that, but... Then again, you run into the same problem of how do you take them to the shelter in the light world, you know? I don't know. Shaw, it's new. It's new. If I had to guess, Des is basically undead and won't survive being the prophecy being fulfilled, so the overarching plan is to purify her, get her in a new body. That does make me think about, you know, the vessel. The vessel has been another smoking Chekhov's gun, right? Not smoking, but another Chekhov's gun. So I really do agree with some of y'all, where I think the vessel will be involved in whatever happens to Des. Either Des has already been puppeting around some sort of vessel, maybe the one we created, or we end up trying to get Des into this vessel. I don't know. You think the Knight is the amalgam corpse of Des? Oh lord, imagine them looking at the decrepit light world corpse of... Well then how does the corpse carry stuff to the bunker? I don't know. Other Darkners describe him as cocky. By him, do you mean the Knight or Ralsei? What were you talking about? Also, let me go back. Someone said earlier, who had said something? RAM. Let's talk about RAM. Thank you for whoever reminded me about RAM. RAM was so desperate for a shadow crystal in Chapter 3. The whole meme about, oh, Chris, penumbra phantasm, world revolving, WD Gaster, buzzword. Very interesting. Please give me a shadow crystal. And then Eram's gone near the end of Chapter 3, and there's that one NPC saying, and being vague posting about what happened to Ram. Like, because Ram was starting to turn to stone, right? And then Ram's gone. Like, did Ram get kidnapped? Did the Knight take Ram? How did the Knight sneak in there if it was the Knight? Was it Eram? Did Eram come in there and take Ram? Like, what's Ram's importance? No, not the confession songs again. We're skipping those two. What if Ram is Eram? I don't know. I think I saw someone trying to make that theory, but I don't think the theory I saw convinced me. I mean, theoretically, maybe, like, we don't see the two of them in the same room, to be fair, but... I mean, I think there is some connection. I think there is a connection between Ram and Eram, but I don't know if they're the same person. it's just weird, because, like, why was Ram not a part of that Dark World? Here's the thing, right? Because Ram was starting to turn to stone, but Ram has always been near the TV, right? Or at least that's what I thought. So why is Ram not considered part of the Dark World where Ram starts to turn to stone? Is it because everyone hates Ram? Because, like, in the chapter, all the other Darkners there just do not like Ram and, like, shove Ram to the side to just make drinks in the back or something. So is it because the others shun Ram? Is it because they were mad that Chris cared about Ram a bunch? Does Chris still care about Ram, or does Chris not care about Ram? Because there's theories saying that Chris used to care about Ram, but doesn't give a crap now. Some things are meant to be unimportant. It's just like, yeah, why make a whole NPC? I guess he could. I guess, theoretically, yes, there could be the whole thing where Toby just needed an NPC to introduce you to the Sword Room. I don't know. Like, again, it falls into that same trap I mentioned earlier of, oh, why would you leave these crumbs unpicked up? Why would you leave this gun unfired? Every theory has unfired Chekhov's guns. That's the thing, there's just too many guns on the wall. You can't fire all these guns. Every theory leaves some of them on the wall. It's just which guns you take off the wall. Nightmare/ERAM is Ram, I think. Why would Ram be the leader of Friends and know everything and stuff? I think, like, to me it seems like Ram thought Ram knew everything, but didn't. But I don't know, I think a lot of that's just memes about people talking about Ram being a vague post-king. ERAM could be a representation of a devil that liked friendlings. Well, yeah, I mean, people are debating if the owner of the friend pack is ERAM or Gaster. I'm kind of leaning towards ERAM, but then it makes you think, like, what is ERAM's relation to Gaster? Does ERAM even know who Gaster is? Does ERAM work for Gaster? Like, it makes you wonder what the connection is, what the order is there. Is ERAM an agent of Gaster? We have 2 chapters to fire 9,000 guns. Yeah, again, the chapter 7 pacing meme be like, excuse me, sir. Oh, Lord. People are theorizing that Des was a creep towards Chris, but none of them consider that Toby makes them a couple. Ain't no way he's writing it like an edgy... Those are memes. I think you're confusing memes with people taking it seriously. I don't think there's near as many people taking, like, the Des groom theory seriously. I thought that was always a shitpost, right? Because I got annoyed at people that were, like, pretending that people were treating that as real. I thought, like, no one thought that was real. Like, we all agreed it was a shitpost. Like, maybe there's, like, 2 or 3 people who actually think some theory like that is real. It's like believing Chris Goon theory. Like, it's a funny meme, but you don't actually believe it, do you? I think Nightmare's goal is different from the Big G. Then what would their goals be? Because, like, from what we've interacted with ERAM, ERAM has wanted Chris to be more violent. ERAM wants Chris to tap into that violent side, and taunts Chris for saying that, for thinking that they're safe and like, oh, it's the soul controlling me, even though I secretly enjoy harming people. Oh, I don't have to touch it because it's the soul, it's the player that's doing all the harm, not me. So my hands are wiped free of that, and ERAM's making fun of Chris for thinking that. At least that's the way I read it. Ram is not from the house. He might be an object from another place, like the library. Chris stole and took home, and Ram took it as a liking to him, so the Darkner form loved Chris. Well, what about the whole people saying it's like the horn headband? There are, theoretically, parallels, but we don't ever see a red horn headband in the house. But in the sword route, there's that door leading into ultimately leading up to the ERAM fight, that the door looks like a red horned headband on top of the door. So, I don't know if this is just misdirection, or if it's leading to something else. Are we all collectively hallucinating? Because, like, there was the mention of the headband, but is the headband even important or not? Or is it a red herring? A red horned herring, theoretically. I genuinely think it'll enhance the drama if Chris considered Des as a third parent, so Deltarune is a Where's My Mom game. Like, I get Chris looking up to Des, because even when Des, like, whacks Chris for messing with Noelle, it's with a wiffle bat. I don't think Des ever hated Chris. I think Des and Chris got along well, but everyone knew Chris was a prankster, so Des kind of worked around that, and still wanted to protect Noelle a bit, but knew that, you know, Noelle and Chris had their own dynamic, I guess. I still think Chris kind of looked up to Des, which makes me, you know, want to clown on Jaru's Asriel's dust theory even more, because, you know, Jaru was insisting that Chris hated Des, because Chris was jealous that Des took the attention of Asriel away from Chris, or something like that. But, yeah, because, I mean, we pretty much have confirmation at this point in Chapter 5 with the letter in the drawer that, Des and Asriel were pretty much a thing, right? But I don't think Chris would be jealous of Des. Gaster isn't even a part of this world, he's behind the device watching us. But if you think about it, I agree with that. Gaster is not in the world of Deltarune. Gaster is controlling things with the device, right? But Gaster needs agents. Gaster needs people that can, you know, interact with the simulation physically to keep the test parameters in check. Hence the goners. And it might not just be the goners, like, you know, I think Gaster might have multiple contacts that are trying to keep things on track or change variables. What if ERAM is one of those things that's meant to test variables? Like, ERAM is an agent that's purposefully trying to incite Chris to more violence to see if that has a huge change on the effect of the test of Deltarune, you know? Like, whatever instance of this simulation it is. Gaster is DMing us through the device. But, you know, I still think Gaster needs actors to keep things in check inside the simulation, if it is a simulation, so ERAM might be one of those that's mainly in the Dark World. I don't know, because you'd think Gaster would need people in the Dark World and the Light World that were able to do both. Because you don't see any goners in the Dark World. It's not like the goners in the Light World, his Gaster followers, are going into the Dark Worlds. So, I don't know. If you're familiar with Planescape? Planescape? What's that? Gaster is likely, like, Raven. I'm not... Unfortunately, I do not know what that is. Lesser versions of itself and the Deltarune as their own people. That builds on the whole agents thing, but, like, that's why people make memes about Gaster running a cartel, right? Where Gaster has all of these hitmen in there. Gaster has these followers, has the hometown butcher that, you know... sniped out onion sand for looking too deep into things. Where are the goners in Deltarune? Normal on PC looks like a goner, but is he just a red herring? I mean, maybe someone was thinking that they're actually clones. Like, everyone in Deltarune is a clone of an Undertale character, or, if not a clone, made out of some whole clay or darkness, or not darkness, but something. Made out of something, and the world of Deltarune is very artificial. And the theory that I listened to was like, what if Gaster was able to use the likeness of the people in the underground to make their likenesses in Deltarune? And as a result, he could color in the goners, and they could be separate things. Like, the hometown butcher is not the same Gaster follower in Undertale. Like, what if the hometown butcher is just, or normal NPC, is just straight up a copy that was colored in? Like, oh, maybe that's why everyone stays out of the rain in Hometown, because the rain would wash off all the paint and the color and reveal the goner stuff underneath. I don't know, that's more speculation and fanfiction, but it was an interesting little thought experiment. There are 3 goner bodies in the takoyaki room. In the room? What, do you mean the stand? Are you saying there were multiple people in the stand? What? Let me look up a picture of the stand. Is that what you were saying? I need to look up a picture of the stand. Deltarune takoyaki stand. What were you... Or were you saying, like, the people around the stand? Because, yeah, there were multiple other goners, theoretically, because there was the one guy saying fun value, and then there was another goner. I forgot what the other goner said. I mostly focused on the fun value one. So yes, if you talk about room as in, like, room of the game, not, like, room as in inside the stand itself, then yes, I get what you mean. I was confused for a second. Planescape's a D&D CRPG from the 90s. Ravel is banished beyond space-time and separates the protagonist's mortality so they can resurrect to atone for an unspeakable sin in their past. That is some interesting parallels. I don't know if that's one that was actively drawn from, because I know Toby mentioned, oh god, what was that one game Toby mentioned that inspired multiple things, including Seth? Because Toby had talked about, like, a specific RPG that wasn't Mother, that inspired a lot of things, but specifically the design of Seth. I just forgot the name of it. Gaster's a face painter guy. You see little Gaster with a booth painting, like, a little tiger face onto a lightner or something. The donut guy was there. But yes, I know who you're talking about. It's the people that were below the stand. Speaking of Gaster as the Forgotten Man, another him. Yes, I think that the Forgotten Man is like a copy, maybe a copy Gaster put in of himself. That I was talking about that earlier with that one, this theory here that talked about Gaster putting a copy of him into the device to be a therapist for the town, and then he purposefully erased that copy as another variable for the test to see, oh, if the town doesn't have me as a therapist, what happens to it? Now, it was kind of an out there theory in some ways, but it kind of ties into the another him, with there being multiple Gasters, there being a Deltarune Gaster and an Undertale Gaster, or if Deltarune Gaster or Undertale Gaster found out about the world of Deltarune and took control of it with the device, and then he's like, oh, that copy of me? Oh, he can't be there, and then he, like, tries to erase him, but he can't fully erase him, hence the fully complete the chapter without issue thing in the achievements for PlayStation. Seth was inspired by Illusion of Gaia. Okay. Toby also cited Breath of Fire 2 as a big inspiration. Illusion of Gaia was the one I heard him talking about a bunch. That was the name of it. Okay. And there were also theories. People also made theories about Mother 3. That one thing where Toby said, if you looked at any of these, like, genres of games or stuff, you would find out how unoriginal I am, or whatever the quote was. And then people were, like, paralleling the whole story and ending of Mother 3 with its own spoilers, and drawing parallels between that and Deltarune / Undertale, with, like, the creation and destruction of worlds and the messing of timelines and, like, Porky being involved and connections with Gaster. This theory in the corner talks about that too, I believe. Also has a section about that. Feel like the Eggman is kind of working for ERAM? The exit track for... I don't know if the Eggman knows about ERAM, to be fair. Because it seems like the Eggman likes Chris, from what we can tell. And if it's the theory that the Eggman was Chris's former therapist is true, then that means that if Chris is trying to reconnect, I don't think the Forgotten Man knows that these cats are after protein and eggs and stuff. Because I think that might be a roundabout way of them finding the Forgotten Man, where the cats can finally snuff him out for good, or something like that, since Gaster apparently does not like the Forgotten Man. So it's like his hit squad, and this guy keeps handing out eggs, and Gaster's like, oh, this guy keeps handing out protein, I'll send my protein-hunting cats against him, or something like that. But then that makes you wonder what Gaster thinks will happen to Chris if the cats find out Chris has all these eggs. Has he planned for that? Like, is Gaster like, well, if Chris loses a hand, then whatever. Whatever. Mother 3's Chapter 7 was like half the game's runtime. There's a good chance Chapter 6 and 7 will have another 20 hours of time to elaborate. We might get a very long Chapter 7. Because people are saying Chapter 7 might not come out until like 2028 or 2029. Which actually isn't terribly far off, considering development previously. But, yeah, we might get a very long Chapter 7, especially if Chapter 6 is going to be shorter, like people are saying. And considering there's a whole Side B, people are saying that maybe Chapter 7 Side B is going to be a completely different thing. It's like building 2 chapters into one. Maybe even more if you consider the Twisted Route. So it's like, if there are all these paths and they're continuing to branch out further, and you can't, like, reuse the same locations for the same stories in these separate routes, no wonder the game's gonna be pretty long. If you play all of the routes, it's gonna probably stack up to a good amount of time. We said Chapter 6 would focus on one thing, but who knows, maybe Chapter 7 is... Yeah, exactly. I think the Eggman doesn't want to hurt Chris or anything, they just told Chris to do... I agree with that too, that's what I was saying. I think the Eggman just wants to reconnect with Chris and not be forgotten. but inadvertently does not know that giving Chris these eggs is putting Chris in danger. Minimum 100, Lamau. Chapter 7 is a new game theory. Well, someone made a, was it the same theory? I keep coming back to this one theory, but I think he was trying to say something at the end about there being a third game. Yeah, unrelated. Because apparently, I think he was arguing unrelated is an anagram of Undertale and Deltarune. I don't know why it looks like that, but there might be a third game that Gaster's soul-splitting across still encounters in. It's some unrelated game that has fragments of Gaster's influence in it, and it's like an unrelated game. So there might be a third game. Because, think about it. Toby's been building a studio. Toby's been building all these industry connections. You really think Toby's gonna just stop right after Deltarune? Well, I'm done making games now. See ya. Wash his hands of the whole thing. Toby's been building all these industry connections. If you think Toby's gonna stop making games, unless he directly says, I'm going to stop making games, I don't think he's gonna stop making games. Now, if those games will be related to Deltarune, what if he says it's unrelated? What if he says the next game he makes is going to be unrelated to Undertale and Deltarune? But surprise! Unrelated's an anagram! I don't know. Maybe I'm smoking crack. Nut dealer is confirmed. Will Twisted Route be a branch of Side B and not Side C? I could see Twisted Route being a branch of one of the other routes, but it makes you wonder how far it's gonna go. Because what's the point of having Twisted Route only slightly branch off if it's not gonna go completely twisted, for lack of a better word? The fact that it's being separated at all makes you think it's gonna be substantially different. I feel like the game won't allow us to bring the Thorn Ring to Chapter 6, at least not by aborting before Birdley. Yeah, it seems like you have to be locked into one of these routes beforehand. It's like there's levels of commitment, and if you don't reach all the commitment levels, then it won't let you go, I don't know, fully forward. Oh, my stream health is suffering. Oh no. I hope the stream's not dying. Maybe that's a sign. How long have I been streaming? 1 hour, 48 minutes, wow. I still haven't okay, let's go through the rest of this. We've been talking about with chat for this whole time. Let's keep going. We talked about Ram, only two sides, we talked about that. Angel. Who do y'all think the Angel is? Some people are saying the Angel is gonna be Noelle, because of, like, the heaven relations, but that's not necessarily a good thing. And Noelle Angel might be like an angel of death rather than anything. That's one thing people have been talking about. There's the obvious thing where the player is the angel, and banishing the angel's heaven, the player, locks the player out of the game. What's next? What other candidates for angel are there? What? Will it just be gone? Will it be deleted? Whole playthrough the save file to see what happens if we port Birdley. Chapter 7B is like gonna be some off-style villain protagonist stuff where we choose between siding with Noelle and Susie, and Noelle looks all messed up from Susie's perspective. Oh, having a choice between who you fight? I like that idea. Because although, if we only go into out of bounds with Noelle, how are we even going to interact with Susie? Are we going to go back into the simulation after we do something outside the simulation with Noelle? Or are we going to, like, ascend and become, if not an Amalgam Knight, then maybe some other weird thing, and then go back to try to finish the story somehow? In-universe, Angel is Noelle, out-of-universe, Angel is the player. Because that other theory did have an interesting point where if we trick the device to think someone else is the angel, we can banish that person instead of us being banished. Like, if we trick the device into thinking, like, if we somehow pull Gaster, if Gaster falls into his creation, the device, at some point in Chapter 7, and we trick the device into believing Gaster is more important to be the angel, and it banishes Gaster, we can shatter him across time and space that way. But, I don't know, that's a crack theory. Let's see. Your theory is the angel came from side B by us fusing with Noelle, and that's why the prophecy wanted to banish the angel's heaven since it's forbidden bath material. 16 at 2M? Whoa, what is that supposed to be? Feels like it's balanced for Chapter 6 too. I'm not sure what that's supposed to be. We still going? I mean, we're still having stuff to talk about. I got distracted and I haven't even finished all this yet. But yeah, I never really focused too much on the angel. Like, you have chapter 4 talking about the angel and stuff, right? But I never, like, gave huge attention to, like, debating who the angel is specifically. We won't know more about that until we get to all those later chapters. Oh, attack, defense, magic. Oh. Armor rings with a rose motif, gilded rose, any thorns are pointed outward so you don't hurt yourself. Was that an item that's going to occur? I think I heard about that item one time, but I forgot everything about it. The lake is probably where the final dungeon is located. Noel basically no-clips into its loading area, so you wake up in the final dungeon. Well, is it connected to the shelter, though? Like, it'd make you think that dungeon, or whatever it is connected to the shelter, where we get there early with the no-clip. We clip in there, but then we get there maybe normally in Chapter 7 when we open up the shelter. And maybe Chapter 5 truly was a lake skip, like that reference that Susie made is. I don't know. Player. We talked about Noel and player as candidates. Let's talk about Ralsei. What people are still debating, who is Ralsei? What is Ralsei? Because now, since we saw at the end of Chapter 5, Chris doesn't have to be in the Dark World for Ralsei to be there. So it can't be an object that Chris keeps on them. So if Ralsei isn't an object Chris keeps on them, what is Ralsei? Some people are arguing that Ralsei is a pure creation of darkness made out of the same stuff the Titans are, so Ralsei can exist on his own in the Dark Worlds to where Ralsei isn't physically attached to an object. Other people are saying Ralsei is the roots underneath the town, and has more in common with the flowers, somehow. But then, you know, there's holes in that theory too. Ralsei Titan theory. Well, just like made out of the same stuff the Titans are made out of? Because I'm leaning towards that. I think the Knight, Ralsei, and the Titans are all made out of the same goo. Just shaped in different ways and shaped by different things. Because, you know, their silhouettes and outlines for one thing, but then just the way they can persist in the Dark Worlds other than that. Ralsei is the opposite of a Titan, not fear of the dark, but the opposite. But I think they're, no matter what, that works too. I just think they're made out of the same goo as the Titans. Ralsei's likely a good Titan. Exactly, see? Wasn't supposed to develop, but he does. Or maybe the prophecy took hold of this Titan material, or Titan spawn or something, and turned it into what would become Ralsei to fit the prophecy. Or maybe the device did that to fit the prophecy. Because some people are still arguing that there was a previous prophecy and it's repeating itself with something other than Ralsei, like where it's filling a role that someone else would have filled, but I don't know if I believe that. It's a stretch to me. Ralsei saying the darkness is your friend. Comfort in the darkness, kind of that theme. Still pure darkness, but comfort in the dark. Yes, it seems like Chad has agreed with me in that regard. I think, yes. So we kind of came to an agreement on that. So we talked about a possibility of it being roots or an object, probably not Titan spawn. Yeah, that's kind of what we agreed on, is some sort of Titan-related thing. Chapter 6 speculation. Dark World. You think it's gonna be the Holiday House? Where in the Holiday House you can have, like, people are making memes where, like, there's gonna be a silly boss, kind of like Tenna or some other weird personality that gets set up early in Chapter 6. But then the story just immediately kills him off or something so we can get serious. And then the real bad guys show up or something like that, or we get fighting the night again or something. Or someone made a joke about the batteries, like the Santas that Chris, you know, glued shut with the batteries would try to, like, gang up on Chris or something. Which were funny memes, and it makes you wonder. Someone said Ices might be the location of the next Dark World, because they were going into that Splatoon theory thing, and saying that, like, the icy things were somewhat related to the weird shit going on in the town, and it was something like a cult or something, with, like, depths and darkness and water or something like that. It would be funny if it was Ices, but I don't think it would be. People are obviously saying maybe the hospital, because Rudy, and, you know, Noel wanting to save Rudy, maybe making a Dark World, try to save Rudy. But then people argue, what all could be the subject of the Dark World? Like, maybe there wouldn't be as much to make of a Dark World, so the Dark World would be kind of short, hence Chapter 6 would be shorter, so I guess it kind of fits in that way. Let's see. You reject all time loop theories on principle because how do you establish stakes if things will endlessly repeat? There is thematic, to play devil's advocate, there is thematic ties with the whole thing fight with Gerson and Susie saying if she had to choose something, she would choose for it to go on forever. Now, I'm not saying that it would be a bad decision to have any loop theories be true, but there is at least some talking about it where there's a non-zero chance. I think that chance is very small, and I don't think I'd like that to happen, but I do play devil's advocate sometimes. Let's see. Reverse Undertale theory, a coincidence, or what? I know what you're talking about with Reverse Undertale theory, with, like, the themes of the areas, like Hotland at the core, and going back up with the ruins and stuff. That, I mean, you've had some... It's another gun on the wall. It's another Chekhov's gun. We have so many of them. We have so many guns. How are we gonna fire all of them? That's all I can say about it. Hoping for hospital or shelter. Holiday house, but most of the rooms are locked. Interesting. Holiday house with an access way to the shelter. That would fit into toilet theory. You enter from the basement? Like, cause, wasn't there a thing where you can hear a sound? Like, there's a sound you can hear somewhere else in the game. Only in the Holiday Mansion's basement. I just forgot what that sound was, but it was something spooky. I forgot exactly what that was. Chapter 6 is going to be so short, I would not make sense to have more than one Dark World. I get that. Yeah, it's just wondering where. Shelter will be Chapter 7's content. Yeah, I don't think we're getting into the shelter until Chapter 7. I think, like, us entering the shelter might be the end of Chapter 6. Like, us opening the door to the shelter, and boom, Chapter 6 ends. Susie will teach Noah how to create one at the holiday house, and Susie will be shocked, and we will have to fight her. I like the idea of Noelle kind of going, not insane, but being overwhelmed by all this happening at once with Rudy, the Dark Fountains, the Chapter 2 lying to them about that stuff, and maybe the aborted Weird Route if that was a thing. And Noelle has some crash out, and we have to fight her. And she might be the boss of Chapter 6. But, like, if you did the aborted Weird Route, she's gonna be extra pissed off, and it's gonna be like a Spamton versus Spamton, Weird Route fight, where there's, like, 2 different boss fights for the same character, based on if you were doing the normal route or the aborted Weird Route. Waterfall got split in the divorce between 4 and 5, so Snowden and 6 is Snowden at the holiday house. I'm not sure if I fully believe in Reverse Undertale theory, but the fact that it's still kind of survived this long is kind of putting things in its favor. So I think I'm net neutral about Reverse Undertale theory. Wherever it takes place, do you think Chapter 6 focus on Des and how she became the Knight and give us a good answer? And try to save her? I do think Chapter 6 will give us more information about the disappearance. We will, if we don't find out who the Knight is in Chapter 6, which we probably will, but if we don't find out who it is, we will at least find out how Des disappeared. We will learn more details about that day. Des's room has a lot of items too, maybe a Dark World there. I mean, she had like the military rations and the paintball guns and all the other stuff. Apparently the paintball guns tie into that Splatoon theory I talked about earlier with like dissolving creatures in the dark using water or something. You're watching a baseball game. Oh, nice. They're cooking hard. Oh, what's the score then? Also, let's see. Let's move on to the next one. Rudy's fate. Some people were making memes where Rudy has like a colored character sprite or something, where like making shitposts about that. But if you ask me, I think Rudy's not going to survive Chapter 6. We might see Rudy in the Dark World of Chapter 6, but it makes you wonder how long Rudy's gonna last. Like, is Rudy just gonna be dead before they even are able to open a Dark Fountain? Is Rudy gonna be a Dustner in Chapter 6 if it takes place in the holiday house or the hospital or something like that? Are we gonna get to learn more about Rudy? Is Rudy gonna lore drop some stuff to us? Like Rudy's Dustner or something? Owlsley can sense a dark presence. Do you think Holiday Knight would be able to sense Noelle entering Castletown? I think Castletown's gonna get attacked. I think the Knight's gonna maybe attack Castletown in some point. Well, I don't know. I thought that more before Chapter 5, but we're running out of time for something like that to happen. If we still have to go to the shelter, and we have to have a Dark World in Chapter 6, there's not a lot of time for the Knight to attack Castletown without making the chapters extremely long. But, like, we're gonna have to seal the fountain there eventually, right? Like, there's a lot of foreshadowing that that door to the Grand Fountain, something's gonna happen. We're gonna end up going through that door in Castletown at some point. So it makes you wonder, is the knight gonna attack Castletown as like a diversion or something? I don't know. It would be interesting to think about. You met Cleveland Guardians? Oh. They also have a guy on second base and a guy on third. Giants have a run while their opponents have none. Oh. What inning is it? Let's see. Let me read more chat here. I think Death's Soul is the code. Is in the code. It's in the code? What do you mean by that? Well, the body amalgamated into the night. The children follow the pointed tail, the poor children. I think we'll get a continuation. What makes me wonder with that, why did Toby remove the prophecy panel that had the point on the tail? Because now the prophecy panel does not have a point on the tail. Why did that get removed by Toby? I don't get why Toby would do that, and what the reasoning for that is. Because that unused sprite did have a point at one point. Ralsei's dying before Noelle joins. Really? I think she might get a chance to meet Ralsei. Well, I mean, interact with Ralsei. Castletown will only survive if we have every recruit. Imagine... Oh god, we were talking earlier. Pause. We were talking earlier about the way gameplay style could change up. It goes to a real-time strategy. In the battle for Castletown, you have to fight an army of friendlings. And it's like playing Total War. You have all the Darkners forming these, like, cohorts of troops, and you have to move them around the battlefield of Castletown. And we, like, command Dark Artillery or something, and you have to fight a real-time strategy, Total War battle in Castletown to save it against an army of friendlings. Toby, give me this and my life is yours! Oh, Lord. It's in the 4th inning? Okay, cool. I was on Ralsei dies in chapter 6 theory since sweepstakes it has to be true. I think we will see Ralsei die. I just don't know if it'll be chapter 6 or 7. It would make sense for it to be 6, because then, the heroes are more steeled up and angry and determined going into the bunker in chapter 7. The voice in the code is Death's right, and the knight can't be a normal person since they keep morphing their body like an amalgam. Well, again, that kind of, like, plays into the fact, like, the theory that the knight is not necessarily a specific person. Toby cramming everything in Chapter 7, like those Chapter 1 Chris kills the fun gang videos. How badly are we crashing out if the friends are all canonically named Michael? I don't know much about Bionicle, so I couldn't, like, relate to that, but... Hey, it's me, Flowery. Hello, Flowery. But please, for the love of God, Toby, give me the real-time strategy Total War section Battle for Castletown in Chapter 6 and my life is yours. Okay, let's keep moving here. Yeah, is Rudy gonna have life support via the Dark World? Is Rudy gonna be a Dustner? We're gonna find out about that day, I think, in Chapter 6. We're gonna learn more background. We might learn more about the demon summoning that Caddy did with Chris. We don't know who the boss is. It might be Noelle crashing out. Maybe it would be... I don't think it would be Rudy. I don't see a reason for Rudy to be a boss at this point. We have themes of escapism. Someone made a mention of parallels between Noelle and Ralsei, with Noelle having ice power and Ralsei having fire power. If people are gonna get a solo Rousey secret boss fight, like they were saying would happen in Chapter 5, and that didn't happen, I don't know if it would be solo, but having the fire of Ralsei versus the ice of Noelle if Noelle is the boss in Chapter 6 would be really cool. So I like that idea that, it focuses on Ralsei in that fight. Even though we did have focus on Ralsei during the fight against Flowery, I guess. Plants versus zombies, but it's recruits versus friends, Lama. Flowery pissed on the knight in the last fight theory, hear me out. No, we grow the army of Floweries using the seed packet. Yeah. Rudy's hospital bed would become a sleigh, and we'll ride it to blast through the Ice Palace's ramparts to infiltrate it and seal the final fountain. That would be cool. And you actually have another gameplay change, where it's like an avoid the obstacles sort of thing, like that section in Chapter 2, with the Queen's car, or whatever, and the banana. But it's like that, but with the sleigh hospital bed. Let's see. I thought Red Flower would be the Ralsei only boss in Chapter 5, not gonna lie. Well, too bad, you're getting Marigold the Giant Rat, aka Hatsune Miku. Birdly? Why did I write down Birdly? I don't know if Birdly's gonna be in another Dark World, because how could Birdly be in another Dark World if there is a possibility for Birdly to be frozen? The fact that Birdly is, can be frozen optionally in an aborted weird route makes it to where I don't think Birdly's allowed to have any more importance to the plot, because he might still be frozen in a different route. So I don't think we're gonna see Birdly take on a significant role, which I kind of feel bad about, because I was kind of rooting for Birdly. I kind of wanted Birdly to have more of a, I don't know, chance to be a main good guy. Because imagine Birdly being in the party, because Birdly was kind of cracked in Chapter 2 in the Dark World. So the Fun Gang having Birdly in Chapter 6 would be a boon for them, which means Toby's like, oh, can't let that happen. Let's see. Recruits versus friends, Plants versus zombies. Yes, RTS section now. What do you think Justice Axe's special ability in the chapter number 2 weapon rule? Can you remind me exactly about all of that? Because I need a reminder for it. Birdly was thrown away like a... We froze him and Toby put him into a coma. And it's too bad! I really wanted Birdly to have more importance, but he's just not going to now. There's no chance that he will. Man. Let's see. Susie's too distracted by Noelle. Why did I write that? Like, maybe Susie just cares too much about Noelle and getting her involved in this to take the plot seriously, but I don't know. She would probably... Noelle might get up to speed, or she'll crash out. We don't know. Roaring when? Chapter 7? We don't know. Is the roaring even gonna happen during a gameplay section, or will we be in the bunker while the roaring is happening? Is the roaring even gonna happen before the very end of the story, or are we gonna play through the roaring? That's the main question. Are we gonna see Darkners in the light world during the roaring, or are they all just immediately turning to stone, you know? Night attacks Castletown. We did mention the Night attacks Castletown. Flower Planter's Encore. If there is the roaring and the Darkners get at least a short amount of time to be in the light world during the roaring, maybe we could have a small reunion with the Planters real quick. Like, you could see Birdly and, like, Seth, like, comforting each other during the roaring or something while we're running to seal or go into the bunker or something. You could maybe see Dustners come back for the final battle. I don't know, what if we get Gerson again? When are we gonna see Sans or Papyrus do anything interesting in the main story? Because we know Sans and Papyrus might end up going to Undertale at the end of this, if that theory is true. So, it's like, when are we even gonna see Papyrus before time is up, or is Papyrus just gonna be invisible during the entire game? We never see him. Let me read chat here. What if saving Dust is the equal and opposite to the weird route, like we dredge her from the depths by spamming the save command? From the depths, I love that game. Also, Dredge, I also love that game. Those are two video games I very much like. Well, that would be neat to have a spam section to save with a save button. I like that. Every chapter we get a sword and an axe with double the chapter number's attack. I did not know that. I did not pay a lot of attention to the weapon stats. Interesting. Roaring. Lamau. Superintendent Toxic X had both chapters 3 times 2. Birdly will be Castletown's savior by making so many eggs that friends get full and can't fight anymore. You're just gonna squeeze Birdly like a Gatling gun. Shooting out. I'm sorry, that's so stupid. That's a very funny visual though. Fire the cannon! Oh lord. Oh, this fandom is a prison! Let's see. Flowers and Graveyard Lightners are absolutely coming back in Chapter 7. We're Old will be canon. It would be a great to have them for an encore, though, during the roaring. Have everyone, you know, come back for one last hurrah before we go into the bunker. This all happens right before we go into the bunker. They help us carve a path to the bunker to go down there and stop the roaring. Let's see. Hi, cutie Mew Mew Magic. OG Miku, hi. The Planters will be Sound of Justice, like, distorted. Oh, you think they're gonna be, like, melting or something? I don't know. I mean, they might not be at their full potential, but it's still an interesting thought. Oh god, didn't we put blue and yellow in the same vase at the end of Chapter 5? Like, to make room for Flowery? Like, what if during the roaring you see, like, blue and yellow's, like, fused together like an amalgam, and it's like really gross. That would be very terrible, but Oh god, imagine that. Chapter 6 will get a base axe that matches the Justice Axe, and a special not-activating will make the Justice Axe useless. Yeah, again, I've never really focused a lot on the weapons, so I guess you could draw parallels with the weapons, too. That's an angle I've never even considered. If we see a single lamppost standing right in front of the bunker, and everyone knows who's gonna step out from behind it, and watch him step out from behind the bunker instead of behind the lamppost. Flowery will use the seeds to spawn 100 of me to kill tonight. Yes, Flowery Army, go! Defend Castletown! Blello Amalgam Theory. Oh gosh, songs for each flower, your dad's best friend, who might you be? Oh, imagine, yeah, they all get musical encores too, like little musical things strung together in one big, like, medley. We got a big, like, beautiful, roaring battle medley that calls back to everyone. If anything, Running Sky is kind of like a medley too. Like it's, you know, the final ascent to the boss battle, and you get all the flowers kind of fighting together to slow you down or something. Let's see. Night Amalgam Theory is straight trash. Please don't mutilate for me. Well, we mentioned earlier where we mentioned it, like, I think it gets a lot of hate. I like it as an interesting idea for an alternate universe. I don't think Amalgam Theory is true, but it's a neat concept, and it would be, it's neat, like, fan fiction fodder. Like, it's neat alternate universe stuff. But I don't agree with it. I just think people shit on it too much. Like, it's easy to hate on it, and so, like, people, like, kind of bully anyone who at least tries to argue for it a little bit. I don't believe it myself, but I feel bad for the people that do believe it, because they get kind of crapped on for it. Telling Orange, Stop Criminal, yeah, Loving Steps, and Pink Mutant. Obviously, yeah, all the musical callbacks. Flowery on the Knight's shoulder will be a target for Susie to use Rune Buster for the pure crystal as a prison, turning it into Fate Buster. Are you referring to that one meme where Flowery starts growing out of the Knight, and the Knight's like, dude, you gotta get this off me! Flowery blooms in your heart. Yellow speck on the Knight, it's one of my Oh, was that an actual thing, or was that people hallucinating? Let me look that up, because I have heard some people mention that, but I don't know if that's, like, an actual thing or not. Did the Knight have a yellow speck? Chapter 5. A single stray yellow pixel on its shoulder during the animation. So that was real. That wasn't, like, just for the meme. That was, like, an actual thing. One yellow pixel. Okay, that... Another Chekhov's gun! How many Chekhov's guns can we fit on one wall? Jesus Christ. Well, what if it's, like, a corrupted flower? If it grows out of pure darkness or whatever the Knight's made out of? Well, what's gonna bloom from that pure darkness? What if that becomes, like... some Asriel, flowy, coated evil guy. I don't know. Okay, so it is an actual thing on the Knight. Fair. Flowery pissed on the Knight theory. Okay, that recontextualizes that, certainly. Flowery blooms on your shoulder. Oh, gosh. Makes the modes weaker and slower. Well, either it's a buff for us. Either it's a buff for us that debuffs the Knight, right? Or somehow the Knight corrupts this flower piece and we have to fight it and it becomes more of like an evil Flowey like we know from Undertale. I think I could go either way with that. Check out 1812 Overture. Yeah, that's a lot of guns on the wall. Chapter 1 had weapons with 2 attack, 2 and 4, 3. Okay, yeah, so like you said, it's following a pattern with the weapons. Okay. Let's look back at this, because we haven't looked at this in a while. The actual stuff I wrote down. We talked about the Plantner's gameplay, the stupid RTS section, but imagine you go into the bunker and it's actually first-person horror. Like, imagine it actually being a first-person, like, dark, semi-3D horror section. Like, as soon as you enter the bunker. And, like, that would be, that would be such a switch-up, too. I don't know if that's gonna happen, but, like, or someone mentioned point-and-click. Well, someone, that was me. What if it's a point-and-click adventure game in the bunker? Like a classic 90s era, like Commodore 64 point-and-click horror adventure in the bunker. And it has the same vibes as the True Lab. I think I know the reason why you abandoned the playlist method for rip streams. Someone might put a regular song in it. I mean, there were multiple reasons, but it just got so long. It wasn't fair to the people who put stuff in it earlier, because then we would never get to it because people kept adding stuff. And I don't know. Like, it's much... I like the newer method much better. People could add to it way faster than we could get through it, basically. One of the flower's pollen effects can make the body's bones move slower. Oh, is that like an actual science thing? I was heavy on weapon stats theory, not gonna lie. First-person horror shelter, glad to see you again, Chris, pops up on the screen for 1 frame. You can do so much friend bullshit, so much friend horror bullshit. Like, go lean full Cheshire Cat into it. Like, floating faces and morphing backgrounds and shit. Like, go full evil Alice in Wonderland horror with it, yeah. It is a thing some seeds had. Okay, I did not know that. I know more about some seeds now. Just still the thought of flowery blooms on your shoulder. That's still a funny meme to me. But yeah, maybe we could have, what if it's a Doom-style first-person shooter and you actually have a weapon that's effective against the friends? What if you take a water gun or something, if you go with Splatoon theory, or a paintball gun, and you start blasting the friends and it's like a Doom map? Like you're playing myhouse.wad in the shelter. Or like, it starts out as horror, but then you get a anti-darkness gun and start going to town or something. Or it could be 3D, like it could be a top-down 3D game too. There's so many options for gameplay. We could have horror cutscenes. Like, imagine if any of you know the game Faith. Like, Faith, you know, is low poly, but it has all these rotoscoped horror cutscenes that are, you know, separate vignettes and that interrupt the gameplay, but those cutscenes are, you know, always dark and horror themed too, and have jump scares of their own and things, so that could also be a neat idea. Didn't Asgore get poisoned by seeds? I think in Undertale, yeah, because, like, he ate the pie that they had the seeds in without putting in the right ingredients, and it got him sick. From Silent Hill 1 at the bottom of the sensory nightmare shelter. Perfect replica of the holiday house, and Dust's room is where we seal the fountain. I do like the idea of the darkness calling back to different areas we've been to before to mess with us. Or, like, making visions of our memories, but twisting them to, like, have horror elements, or having, like, Asgore be there, and it's like, oh, Chris, and then it turns into, like, some evil, demented, dark version of Asgore that's not real, and it's like, oh, I'm evil, Chris, you need to fight me. And it's not the actual Asgore or something. And then we gotta think, are they down there? Are we gonna be able to save Asgore? Are we gonna be able to save Officer Undyne? Like, or are they gonna be sacrificed? One or both of them. Do we stop the sacrifice just in time? Or does the sacrifice cause the roaring? What if we break in there right when Undyne gets, like, stabbed through the chest, and then that creates the roaring? Let's see. I'm pretty sure Asgore would be wearing gloves, and the warning labels is also why. We get a flashlight sword that works against the darkness better than Black Shard. Lamau. Seth. Hello, Seth. Deltarune. Let's see. Portal 2 theory. Toby got so bored he created, portal mechanics and made the puzzles close to impossible since he's fed up with the Phantom. He just makes it a really hard puzzle game, and then everyone just quits. No one actually finishes the game. Because he didn't playtest it, and he made the puzzles way too hard. Let's see. Susie might OD on DW. DW, what? Chapter 7. Oh no, the roaring. And then you seal all the fountains for the roaring, and then you go, just kidding. Let's see. You can make the entire fun gang in Pathfinder 2E rules as written. One of the Oracle subclasses, Cosmos, it makes you feel. I know Pathfinder is one of those tabletop RPGs, but I've never really played tabletop RPGs before, so some of you might get that more than I will. I'll make a rules card final boss. That would be fun. It's kind of interesting, though, that we don't have rules card showing up at all in Chapter 5. Although, wait. Rules card didn't show up in Chapter... Did rules card show up in Chapter 4? Because I know it was in Chapter 3, but was rules card even in Chapter 4 or not? I don't remember. Let's see. Overdose Dark World. Oh, DW Dark World. Okay. Also, remember when it talked about Fire Shock in the hospital with Noelle? I believe Des would be the one with Fire Shock. Well, I mean, we had the whole thing set up with Ralsei. Like, are we gonna have two characters focusing on fire? Because we had the reveal of them finding out Ralsei has fire magic in Chapter 5. It's, again, another Chekhov's gun you're leaving on the wall. We have a whole armory now. Let's see. Rules... He did? Where was rules card in Let me look this up. Where was... Okay. Where was rules card in Chapter 4? Well, was he not in the Dark World? Oh, no, what I meant to ask is, like, was he only in a castle town, or did he show up in the Dark World itself, is what I meant to ask about Chapter 4. Because, yes, rules card is in Castle Town. I just didn't know if he was actually in any of the Dark Worlds of Chapter 4 that weren't Castle Town. That's what I was trying to ask. Got gonered in Chapter 4? What do you mean he got... What? It's like that meme from Ted where it's like, yeah, we had an Indian kid, but they got him. What do you mean they got him? Nice guy, too. What do you mean they got him? Collaborative improv, you roll the dice and do addition sometimes. Yeah, I've never played Pathfinder. Also, the Fire Mage left the party, somebody leaves by dying. There is... Yeah, that's another Chekhov's gun, the Fire Mage left. Some people are thinking that's like, oh, Ralsei temporarily leaves the party. Other people are thinking, Ralsei fucking dies. We don't know. He was in a crack in the sanctuary. Wait, a crack? What? I gotta look more into this. Some people were saying they weren't. Someone said you could see Lancer in the mic room. Some people... I see a lot of people that I'm looking up saying rules card wasn't in the dark... Like, the church dark world, but I don't know. Let's see. Ralsei did use Fire Shock, but a funny theory I saw was Deltarune is Dragon Blazers. He was in a crack at the sanctuary. Because some people are saying yes, some people are saying no. Rose card got put in a monochrome copy machine, so they didn't appear in the church. Lamau. Ralsei will die in Chapter 6, mark my words. It might have been Chapter 5, Chapter 5 in a crack. What do you mean in a crack? You can't just say in a crack. Peter, what are you doing? Crack? I love vague posting. One last thing I wanted to mention with the gameplay elements for the future chapters is we might have some more manipulation of the UI mechanics, like characters directly interacting with the UI. Because, you know, in Undertale, there was definitely characters interacting with UI elements directly. So I believe we will have some of that in Chapter 6 and 7. Just depends on what characters do it. Like, if we have a rematch versus ERAM or something similar to ERAM, you know they're gonna be trying to manipulate some shit with the UI or change the buttons and stuff. Like, I mean, even rules card messes with buttons. I don't know. You can look through a crack and it was rules talking with a person? I'm gonna have to look through more playthroughs again. Let's see. Yeah, I think if Ralsei's gonna die, it would definitely be in Chapter 6 versus Chapter 7, because, you know, like I said earlier, Ralsei dies in Chapter 6, and then it steals up the determination of the heroes to march into the bunker and finally put a stop to all this, because they're like, we got nothing to lose now, we gotta go and save who we can, I guess. Crack theory. Literally crack theory. Lamau. Okay. I have talked for how long now? God, 2.5 hours. I thought this wouldn't go more than 1.5 hours, but Jesus Christ, we've had a lot to talk about. Here, I'm gonna use the restroom real quick and get more water. In the meantime, I want you all left in the chat to think of last stuff you want to talk about. Stuff that we haven't talked about yet before we wrap up the stream that we should probably address. All the elephants in the room you want to address. So I will be back in a bit. Let me loop the music again. Yay, looping music. I'll be right back. Okay. Where were we? Let me see where y'all left off on. I'm just trying to find where chat left up on. Noelle is an almost perfect one-to-one copy of Ralsei when it comes to the moveset anyway. Well, yeah, the fire and ice parallels. That's the thing we mentioned earlier, where it would be neat in the boss fight if it had a focus on Ralsei with fire versus Noelle with ice, if Noelle is the Chapter 6 boss. Chair, yes, Chair. Healing shock spell that he didn't use. Spare tired spell. Low HP, high magic, low attack. Okay, yeah, the more magic weapon parallels. That's a whole angle I didn't really look at until before now. Talk about the newsletter? I mean, we mentioned the newsletter in a few points. What specifically about the newsletter do you want to talk about? Like, didn't it tell us that, you know, one thing will be resolved in Chapter 6 whether we are ready for it or not? Like, it told us that. It told us the inspirations for characters like Seth and Yellow being, obviously, Woody. What else did it tell us? Oh, the 7B page. Yeah, and the progress bar page for Chapter 7B, seeing how much the progress is going. And when it said same time as 7, yeah, because some people were like, Chapter 7B is going to release at the same time as Chapter 7. I think that's obvious, but I think some people are going further and saying the events in parallel timelines will take place at the exact same time, but, like, I don't know exactly what that means when people, like, people have different interpretations of that. Or, like, it leads into someone else when they brought up, like, the weird route making a copy of Chris and Noelle to spawn back at the lakeside when Chris and Noelle actually did glitch out of there. So maybe you're gonna see 2 Chris's and 2 Noelles. If it does create a duplicate of Chris and Noelle, and maybe that's what it means by same time as 7, where Chapter 7 and 7B happen, what if we fight parallel weird route versions of ourselves? Like, in the normal route, we fight the weird route copy. Well, we are the copy, so we fight the weird root version of ourselves or something. I don't know. The monochrome paradox theory: every living creature was created by Undertale Gaster, but Deltarune's story made Undertale, so it's a paradox that Deltarune is a copy of Undertale. Well, I thought, like, the way people were looking at it was that, you know, the device that Gaster made either created or took control of the world of Deltarune, and the world of Deltarune is like a meta level below the level of Undertale. So I don't know how that, like, loops back in on itself. But, because, like, well, I guess you could say it loops back into Undertale with, like, Sans and Papyrus, you know, leaving with their strange device, but I don't know. Like, it seems... I can't wrap my head around it fully. Side B, doing it saves into all your files. Yeah, it does make a permanent marker in all your files. Or it messes with more than you think it would in the files, so maybe it, like... Yeah, like, where you end... Like you're saying with Undertale, like, if you finish a true pacifist, then you do it... No, you finish a genocide, then you do another pacifist, and then at the end it shows that you know, Kara's still there or something. No, it's a perfect replacement of Ralsei when it comes to gameplay. Yeah, you had mentioned that with the attacks and patterns and the magic. Maybe Chris and Noelle being gone makes Ralsei not die? Susie and Ralsei progressed the city without us in Chapter 2. They do the same thing in Chapter 6, and our absence makes Ralsei survive. That's an interesting idea, since, yeah, if we skip all of Chapter 6, and Ralsei dies in Chapter 6, maybe since Chris and Susie are gone, if they don't make a copy when they glitch out of bounds, and there is no copy of them that's made, then maybe the events that cause Ralsei to die don't play out. And then maybe we have to kill Ralsei and Susie in the weird route. Oh god, not the confessions again. Skip! Yeah, Susie and Ralsei can fight us, exactly. Festival has the freedom motif? I know what bit you're talking about. Let's go back to Festival. I know what bit you're talking about. Like, I think it's, for one, it might be a tease, but if it is actually supposed to be freedom motif, what does that mean? And don't call it Batat motif, that's just them trying to claim it. I think that's just Toby just making another gag with the music. I'm still gonna call it the freedom motif. But, where's the bit? Wait. Yeah, it's where that little spike is, isn't it? Like, I can hear that it kind of has a progression a little bit like the freedom motif. Like, I can hear why people are saying they can hear the freedom motif in it. I don't know if that's what Toby was going for, and if it is what Toby was going for, what he means by it. Both Freedom and Lost Girl share the Gaster motif. Because, like, it's interesting to draw music parallels, but I did see some videos where people were like, you know, especially with Gaster's theme, it's so simple in the small amount of notes and the sheer amount of coincidences. It's like, it's the whole thing where when you have a bat, everything looks like a ball, right? Where I think some people are making a lot more connections than are probably valid to make, just because, yeah, some things sound similar, but it's some of them are such simple and easy chord progression or note progressions that, you know, it's like you need more of a solid match for it to stick, I guess. It's like, you know, when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Festival Barrels from Girl Next Door, which has Lost Girl, which has Gaster C. It's like, how many layers of Kevin Bacon do you want to go to reach your conclusion? Norma VC next secret boss Lamau. That would be funny, though. It might be an encounter. I think it would be an encounter, maybe. Like, you have to fight... Like, imagine in the bunker or whatever, you do fight all the Gaster followers as normal enemies. normal NPC. Like, they are mob enemies, and you clear them out, or they're like... Some of them are mini-bosses or something, basically. And maybe if Onion isn't dead, if they are just chopping Onion up for... Chopping Onion's, like, limbs off or something, maybe we have a chance to save Onion. I don't know. And maybe Onion's limbs grow back? No, they don't. Waiting for a Lightner secret boss. Or, I just want a Light World fight. Like, imagine an actual Light World fight. Would the UI look different? Because in Chapter 5, Ralsei mentions the UI, and that seems like something unique to Dark Worlds. The battle UI. So, if we get in a battle in the Light World, is it gonna be just cutscene? Like, a cutscene-only fight? Or are we gonna get something different, you know? Or what reason will we have? Will we finally get a versus Susie betrayal fight? Like, I used to believe that more before Chapter 5, but now, it seems like Susie is less dense, but more being purposefully oblivious, right? Where Susie kinda knows that we're doing some shady shit, and she's caught onto it, but she's, like, fooling herself to where she doesn't have to, like, confront us about it. Like, she knows we're probably doing something weird, but she trusts us so much that she's willing to overlook it, knowing that we're probably doing the right thing. Kind of like Ralsei, except Ralsei knows a bit more than Susie. But I don't think Susie's as dense as everyone thinks she is. Now, it's funny to think she's dense, right? It's a very funny meme, but, you know. We have a ball, we're not playing baseball. Just because we've been playing the same game with this ball for so long doesn't mean we can't play other games. I mean, yeah, you can draw musical parallels, it's just I don't know if people are drawing too many. Light World is more Undertale style, maybe. Would apply to the same for the battles. Yeah, people in the comments here aren't really mentioning the freedom motif. They're just talking about third wheeling. Let's see. Light World stats are made horribly, we can't get a good fight in the Light World. Every weapon except the Black Shard gives 0 to attack, no abilities, and there are no armors. What if the Roaring augments it? What if we get a Light World fight during the Roaring, to where it has, because it's kinda darkness and kinda light, you get some mix, some, like, weird mix between the Light World and the Dark World UIs, but it's a fight during the Roaring, so it augments people's Light World items, to where they're, like, partially their Dark World form, but partially Light World. And therefore you get a mixing of the battle elements that you get in a regular Dark World fight versus a Light World fight during the Roaring. Like, that could be interesting. Then, well, if the Black Shard stays the same, because the Black Shard's like one of the only items that is the same between Dark and the Light, maybe it gets some unique property during the Roaring that makes it very, very, very interesting to equip. Toby gets away with a shitty Light World system because it's the roaring that tracks. Well, I mean, like, if it's a shitty system for the Light World fight, then you kind of have to duct tape to fix it if you want to fight during the Light World, so just have the fight happen during the roaring, and you could explain it away as roaring darkness bullshit, you know? Like, it's a messy fix, but it's still a fix. I'm your dad's best friend. The diner. God, these vocal clips, these voice clips are gonna be everywhere, I swear. Or like the two people who made like fan-made Chapter 3 boss fights and happened to name their character Flowery for like Phantomime or whatever that fan-made boss track was, and then you go in the comments of the boss fight track and someone's like, imagine Toby named some dumbass character Flowery, and then everyone's like, what did he see? Bro, read the prophecy! Blingo Blizzard! Lord. I remember there being a fan-made rules card fight where it briefly enters Undertale battle style. Oh, that's interesting. Huh. Only if you try and kill him. Wow. Because, like, part of me wonders, like, we're probably gonna see Ralsei die in Chapter 6. But do you think we're gonna seal the Castletown Fountain in Chapter 6? Because, you know, at the end of Chapter 5, we see the cutscenes with, Susie making all the Darkners in Castletown help make a room for Noelle. I feel bad for Lancer, because didn't Susie straight up kick Lancer out of his own room to put Noelle's room in there, something like that? Like, people were meaning about that. But, like, it makes you wonder, like, you know, Susie puts in all this effort, and then only one chapter later we have to seal Castletown and Ralsei dies or something like that. Or, like, Ralsei's left for dead, and we have to, like, put him out of his misery and seal the fountain. Maybe the fountain gets sealed mid-fight and it continues in the Light World. I like that idea! Ooh, you continue the fight after the fountain gets sealed. That would be really cool. And then the fight style completely changes. Imagine we get a completely different battle system that's not even related to Undertale. Like, imagine it's a brand new... Like, what if it's like... I don't know. You might get a gameplay style change. Like, it might do a thing where it turns into a RTS, like a platformer real-time Smash Bros. Type thing again. Maybe it wouldn't do the same thing. But maybe instead of going turn-based, it'd go something that isn't turn-based once you get to the Light World, you know? Imagine that. An in-between gray area. Yeah, roaring bullshit. There's a lot of options is what I'm saying. Now, with all these options, I'm afraid we're setting ourselves up for disappointment. Because, like, I think Toby was working backwards. Toby knew the ending from the Fever Dream and had to make everything backwards to get there. So I think everything is set in stone in his direction. So, if what Toby's going to be doing with the way the gameplay and the story works, and he knows it, and he's known it for a long time, if it's not living up to these wild expectations we have, we're going to be setting ourselves up for disappointment. Now, I hope it's something really cool that we won't be disappointed by it, but we might want to try to temper our expectations, because, you know, everyone got all their hype hopes up for Chapter 5, thinking all this crazy stuff's gonna happen. Oh, the roaring's gonna start at the end of Chapter 5. Oh, we're gonna have a solo Ralsei versus friend boss fight, secret boss. We're gonna fight Asgore again. We're gonna have all this stuff. And then none of that happens. And some people were disappointed from Chapter 5, because it didn't answer a lot of the questions they had. You know, vague post-King stuff, that sort of thing. So we gotta temper our expectations a little bit. Cherry collab, Lamau. Imagine, well, you know, with all the connections that Toby has, I don't think this is the end of Toby collabing with people. I think Toby's gonna only increase the amount of collabs he does as he nears the end of his Deltarune, you know? But I think that's about all I wanted to talk about. We've already been streaming for 2 hours and 40 minutes, so I might start wrapping things up soon. My throat is sore and dry, and I'm hungry. But look, we got a lot of conversation out of this. I did not expect the stream to go nearly that long. And we're finally at the end of this list, too. There's nothing at the bottom here. You just can't see it with the screen. But we reached the end of all my notes here. Chapter 5 was the longest shitpost chapter. Last shitpost chapter. Yes, we did hear that. It was the last shitpost chapter. Imagine Toby is the all caps voice. We zoom out and it's literally the Deltarune ends on a MP4 video. Like it zooms out of the screen and it zooms out and it's just Toby sitting in his room, like actual real life Toby sitting in there, or holding up a dog mask or something and going, "Hi, I'm Toby Fox. My name is Toby. I made the Deltarune. It was difficult to put the chapters together." Guesters in the third game trust. Well, yeah, we have Unrelated, the game, right? Right? See? Deltarune, Undertale, and Unrelated, even though it's spelled weirdly. But yeah. But that's about all I really wanted to talk about. Reddleton Nude alert. Lord. Alright. I think it's about time to wrap up then. So I want to thank you all for joining. We got a lot of discussion done. I think I might do another one of these streams later when we get closer. Like once we get some other content drop, whether it be another newsletter, or we get, like, later in the future, we get an announcement trailer or something for Chapter 6. I want to do another one of these streams, focusing more on expectations, maybe building a bingo card. We could all build, like, a pre-Chapter 6 bingo card, because I built a bingo card for Chapter 5. It did not go well. But yeah, so there's all sorts of stuff we could do. This was very, very interesting. Yes, it was. Yeah. We probably won't get a stream like this for a long while, because, like, it's like we'll just be rehashing the same ideas over and over again until we get new information, basically. We kind of know what we know for a while, especially since the newsletter dropped already, so, yeah. Chapter 6 bingo card's gonna be peak. Yes, it is. Oh, Lord, I can't wait. I'm just excited to see what more rips, like, Siva Gunner rips and mashups people make in remixes using all this juicy Chapter 5 music material. That's what I'll say. Alright, let's go over to ending soon. So yeah, if y'all don't watch my streams otherwise, what I normally stream is those Siva Gunner rips, those, like, mashups people make and they get submitted and I listen to them. A lot of them are Deltarune mashups, not all of them though, because, you know, it's Siva Gunner and all sorts of people rip on Siva Gunner. But, yeah, I do a lot of that. I occasionally do a few other streams, but it's not very often. Like, I'll occasionally do a stream like this, but this is not the norm. So, if you like that sort of content, I have all sorts of VODs up in the live section of my channel if you want to watch some of these VODs and see if you're interested in them. But, other than that, I hope you all enjoyed the stream tonight. And rip reaction bingo one day? That's a good idea. Ooh, put a pin in that. I like that. Yeah. Oh, karaoke. I do karaoke too. And reacting to, like, lore, but specifically Siva Gunner lore, since it's channel lore and that sort of thing. But yeah, first exposure. Yeah, again, I'm not a Deltarune-focused channel, unfortunately, but I do talk a lot about Deltarune in my other streams, and listen to a lot of Deltarune mashups and music that people submit. So yeah, that's all I've got really on that sort of thing. Now I'm gonna go get me some food, let my poor voice and my throat heal up a bit, and yeah. Thank you all for joining. Hope to see you all on the next one, whenever it is. There's a Discord link in the below if you want to join the Discord. It's kind of a dead Discord, but I mainly use it to announce these streams. Other than that, you all have a good one, and peace out.